Okay, I think we're ready when you are.
Okay, this is the April 17th Planning Commission meeting for the town of Hideout. It'll be called to order, actually the 16th, no, today's the 18th, 17th, I'm sorry. First thing we'll do is roll call. Tony, I'm here. Glynis?
Here.
All right, Don is absent. Jonathan?
Here.
Rachel?
Here.
Joel? And Peter? Okay, Peter's not on yet.
I'm on. Can you hear me? I'm on.
Okay, thank you, Peter.
I'm not that skilled at Zoom, so sorry.
Okay. This meeting will be held via Zoom and it's also on YouTube. There will be no anchor site based upon the current COVID statistics. And then next is the approval of the meeting minutes. Does anybody everybody had an opportunity to go over the minutes? And if so, does anybody have any questions in regard to any of them?
Do not.
Okay, there being no questions in regard to the minutes. Next is the introduction and swearing in of the two new members.
Tony, we need to approve those minutes, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Anybody like to make a motion to approve those minutes?
I will.
Thank you, Jonathan. Anybody second it?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Glynis,
Yes.
Jonathan,
Yes.
Rachel,
Yes.
and Tony's yes. Okay, so the minutes will be accepted as they are. Now we can get to introducing and swearing in of the two new alternates, Joel and Peter. Alicia, do you want to swear them in?
Yes, I will need to. Is Joel on? I thought I saw him.
I believe he is.
Yes, I am.
Great. If you guys want to turn your cameras on real quick and then raise your right hand. Okay, repeat.
Can you see me?
Yep, we can just do this both at once. Repeat after me. I state your name.
Hi, Peter Ginsburg.
I, Joel Pieper,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
We swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
With fidelity.
Thank you very much and welcome to the Planning Commission.
Peter, it's my understanding you're gonna have to leave early, correct? All right, Joel, seeing that Donna is not here, you will be a voting member tonight. For what's that worth? And okay.
Okay,
And the first thing on the agenda is the continued discussion of the concept plan for the Saltzman property. Are Jenny and Ryan on?
They are.
We are.
Okay, Thomas, do you want to have them speak first, or do you want to go over your report?
Why don't I go over my report, and if you guys have any questions or if they want to jump in, certainly Jenny, Ryan, feel free to jump in. What I thought I would do is try to just catch people up with regard to where we left off at the last meeting. That works for you guys.
Well, before you do that, maybe they can just give a brief synopsis of the water issue situation, because that's the main issue.
Sure, they've had some meetings. I'll let them catch you all up. Okay.
Yeah, hi everyone. Met you all last time. I'm Jenny and this is Ryan. A quick catch up is we appreciate your time last time and all of your comments. We heard them. We made tweaks on what we could. As a developer, we can't solve every single problem, but we can definitely solve some, which is exciting for our town and city to have the ability to be in this position. So thanks for letting us be in this position to pitch to you. You will see lower density. You'll see changes that work with the earth. You'll see that the hotel placement has remained the same. We do have some good news. We have a LOI for a hotel from a very prestigious brand already. So the hotel placement, and they're very happy with that. So yeah, we have a few updates too to let you know after we go through things, and I'm happy to answer your questions and tell you how we've answered or heard your questions and made changes from the last meeting as well. We do understand there might be a few more questions throughout. On the topic of water, we have been working really hard. We have great news that we have secured 50 acre units of water in the JSSD district. So it is ready to go. And on close of the land, we will get that water ready to use. And that is enough for phase one that Thomas is going to show you that we're presenting tonight, which is including the hotel, commercial, and 40 townhomes. And in that phase alone, just the hotel would bring in about $140,000 a year extra revenue and sales tax, plus another 40 in the commercial. The commercial would bring in another 80 a year for the town, and then the townhomes, if they were going to have a little bit of short-term rental, would bring in a little bit more. So you can see that that allocation of water is critical to bringing in sales tax revenue potentially at the end of 2025. The next update that we have is the house has a well on it that's being actively used by the house on the Salzman's property, and I'll let Ryan talk more to that. We do have state documents that we have emailed the team here to talk about the well and what its capacity is too.
Yeah, so the current well that's on the property is 600 feet deep. It's registered with the state at 50 gallons a minute. And so I talked to Max at JSSD, and we ran some numbers on that this morning. And that comes out to 80 acre feet of water. Now, we understand that it's not set up to municipal standards. We would have to, test the water and test the capacity and run it for longer. And there's a lot of hoops that would jump through. We'd plan on building the well, but the city would want to know who's going to build it and who's going to maintain it, right? There's a lot of details, that would need to be ironed out, but those are things that we're willing to work through. So from high level, that is the water situation we have now. It's the 50 that we have plus the 80 would be 130. And 130 actually is the exact number that we've been working off with Ryan Taylor as far as the needs for the development. It breaks out into 85 acre feet culinary for indoor use, and then 45 acre feet for landscaping, which is the 130. So happy to keep going on kind of the overview or answer any questions, or maybe we keep going with the overview and we can come back to questions, do them all at once.
Yeah, we'll let Thomas go through the overview of his, but I just wanted everybody to hear from you what I know I discussed this morning. So they're all on the same, everybody's on the same page.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tony.
Yep, thank you. Okay, Thomas.
All right, so if you all remember, you heard this at last month's meeting. That was the first time that Jenny and Brian had an opportunity to present to you. So they came in with a conceptual plan. At that time, the Planning Commission made some recommendations. They had some questions. You've started to touch on some of them, and that is with regard to water, where the connectivity would be for trails, opportunities to preserve additional open space, consider an increase in the amount of commercial square feet, and really look at the connection either under or over SR 248. So with that being said, that was just kind of the general input that they heard from you all at the last meeting. Just as a reminder, the total site size is about 112 acres. I think sometimes we've called it 114, but I think it's 112 acres is more accurate per parcels. It's currently zoned mountain, again, 1 unit per acre. And if you go to the next page, Alicia, are you controlling that? I can't tell who is. Is that you?
Yeah, I'm controlling it.
Okay, thanks. If you don't mind going down to the next page, right about there to kind of original and proposed concept density. So you could see last month, Jenny and Brian came in, they had about 318 units that were primarily concentrated on the 75 acres. Again, I think that might be more 70, 72 acres. So you might see that vary a little bit through the report as we were trying to get exact measurements in terms of acreage. But about 318 units were concentrated on the 70, 75 acres. They also included about 20 to 25,000 square feet of neighborhood commercial space. You could see below that what would make up the neighborhood commercial space included, in addition to, included boutique hotel. You could see the breakdown in casitas, townhomes, and single family lots. Based on the meeting last month, yeah, you scroll up just a little bit, you can see that the proposal has been reduced in terms of its recommended density. Now it would be 230 units, primarily concentrated on that 70/75 acres that is the eastern part of the site. An increase in commercial as recommended at the Planning Commission last month, about 30 to 35,000 square feet of commercial. It's also worth noting that some additional commercial space, maybe it's a restaurant space, kind of brew pub space, have been included in the hotel as well. So it's actually a little bit higher than that square feet that I noted there. You'll also see that the casitas have been reduced from 80 units to 50 units. Townhomes have been reduced from 100 units to 96 units. And single family lots have been reduced from 18 units to 16 units. And I think that the hotel has stayed the same, about 60 units with a lockout unit for each. So that would be a total of 120 keys, 120 units. It's also worth noting that there was some discussion at the last meeting with regard to the west parcel. Again, that's the 40-ish plus or minus acre unit, western portion of the site that contains the existing single family house for the Salzmans right now. Ryan and Jenny have noted that they intend to occupy that house to make that their home. And so that space, there was discussion with regard to a conservation easement on that site, a specific allowance of density. Right now, it's 1 unit per 1 acre. Again, if it's 40 acres, it's about 40 units, but there's infrastructure and steep slopes that would have to go in. They did an analysis. I'll get down to it in just a second. Roughly, they've determined that the maximum density they could get there with the mountain density, just leaving that 40 acres alone, would be about 25 acres of additional single family residential. It's not something they have an intent to build right now. Maybe down the line, one never knows. And so if you look at the entire project, it would be about 230 units for the east parcel and 25 units for the west parcel. So the total density would be about 255 units. If you scroll up just a little bit, yep, we'll get to the general plan. So as we look at this, one of the things we want to make sure that the Planning Commission is aware of is the need to ensure that a concept plan or a proposal for a rezone in this particular area would be in compliance with the general plan. And so the general plan does note that it has 3 components to the vision statement: preservation of outstanding views, cultivating and inviting neighborhood atmosphere, and building a connected community. There's also some economic development growth goals that are important for this, and those are noted there with regard to commercial development. But generally, the plan does ensure a variety of housing typology And it does promote for connectivity, which I'll get to in a subsequent section of the report. You scroll down, if you don't mind scrolling down just a little bit to the next page. Again, this is a locational map. You're all pretty familiar with that. This is a bit of a comparison between the proposal in March and the proposal in April. I can certainly let Ryan and Jenny walk you all through this with regard to where some of the changes were made. But from a high level perspective, you can see that some of the casitas were removed as noted earlier. You can see that in the middle portion of the site where the townhomes are located, some of those have been broken up. We had a pretty good discussion with regard to finding kind of that open space, that ability to kind of weave trails in and kind of let the streetscape, let the landscape breathe a little bit. So opening it up. And you can also see that the some of the area to the right, I'm not able to point on here, but kind of to the right where there were some existing townhouses that went through, it's now kind of a cul-de-sac area. The other issue worth noting that is different is the amphitheater did decrease in size a little bit. Jenny, Ryan, do you guys want to walk through any of that in particular?
Yeah. I would love to. I do have a screenshot if I could share and sort of shows you, or I can talk to this. What do you think? Is that an Alicia question? If I can.
Is that okay if they do a quick screen share? It might be easier to see theirs because maybe it'll be a larger version. It might be easier for everybody to see this anyway.
Yep, absolutely. I've gone ahead and stopped sharing, so you should be able to share now.
I think you're going to see my whole screen. How do I just do the one I want to show you? Oh, here it is. Okay. Do you all see that right now?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, I've just done some little yellow additions, which might help us all. So as you come in from the bottom here, I do want to talk first about the increase in size of commercial. That was, we heard you, Jonathan, talking about that and how the potential as our community and our city thrives, we want to keep things open for potential growth. So we increased that from 20 to 25,000 square feet to 30 to 35,000. Now, just talking through what that means, in the 20 to 25, we visualize having a small market, cafe store, restaurant, maybe some small local businesses, health and wellness necessities, nails or hair type things. Potentially Ryan is passionate about a wine club there or something. Things I'm passionate about, potentially doing an art gallery there, a small art gallery, and bringing things like that. So that's what we're thinking for the 20 to 25,000 square feet. We did have people bring up that there's a big need for events, and also events can help bring in revenue for the city as well, and with such a beautiful piece of land. So one of the Golden Eagle residents is actually an event specialist and was kind enough to spend the time with me consulting on what that would look like, what the data is for events. Now, the maximum size is around 150 for a wedding that we see in this area. They go out to chemists and use locations, and they have real trouble finding places to have rehearsal dinners and things like that. And then there's corporate events too. So really, if you can have a space, let's call it a banquet room, open space for 80 to 150, you can really attract these events. Now, what that also does, it attracts them to stay in the area. So it helps fuel the hotel and helps fuel the economy there too. So we have, when in that 35,000 square feet, potentially there is a 4,000 to 8,000 square foot banquet space that has all glass and beautiful views and can be used for different events that come to the city. The other thing in mixed use commercial is restaurant ability. As we went and walked the site after you all gave your recommendations, we felt like there could be an amazing restaurant or rooftop restaurant in the close area as you come into this area too. So adding that to the commercial square footage there. We've also added 8 single multi-family units to this commercial space here. And that is to help attract these commercial vendors. So they potentially might want to buy a mixed use and have a place to live for them as a small business up top, or utilize it for their friends to come and stay into. So we added 8 multifamily units to the mixed use neighborhood just as a strategy to, if we need that to help recruit commercial versus us coming back and asking you all for it. So that's the commercial space there. As you go around, the amphitheater, you can see here this line I drew. So the change, Thomas, is I was imagining we went and stood there, and I didn't want the townhomes in front of my view when I was watching a band. So in the other one, the amphitheater was a little bit further down and the townhomes are in front of it. So what we tried to do is move it over here. And as we were moving over, Ryan realized with our brilliant land engineer that we had made it big enough for 2,000 people with the space. So it's actually now the formula for 300 to 500 people, which is what we pitched at the last concept meeting. So we have not changed it. We've just made it more accurate in these visuals for you. So this is the work in progress. We are going to make mistakes as we make them. We want to change them to make them as realistic as possible for you. So that's the amphitheater. On the left-hand side here, where I've circled on the house property right now, we did then add this third access road out. So at the moment, you have it in at the bottom and out at the top through Golden Eagle. On the right-hand side, there's a circle here that Ryan Taylor and Thomas really wanted us to stub over to the east side, and that was one of the comments. So we've added that potential exit if a developer comes over there. And then we thought we would show our own initiative, and we felt like it would be good to have potentially an emergency route on the left-hand side too, so you could get out of the community. So that's new. In the middle of this screen, you see the circle here. That was a density of 20-ish casitas. We just removed them. We just felt like one of our big things is working with the land. So our goals are, how can we help our city thrive? So that's how can we make this not a residential development, but a resort development that brings in sales tax. That's one of our goals in making these changes and what we heard from you. Our second goal is, how do we make that working with the land as much as possible? Our third goal is, how do we mitigate the neighborhoods from this density that we need to make money to make this happen, and then just working with the land. So this is part of several of those goals. It actually makes the views great for the Golden Eagle and for our single family lots. It just has a feeling too of the trails that you can walk up to the lookout as well. So we removed those. We did keep 5. We feel like those 5 are great for marketing for Hideout. It's the most beautiful view up there. And that is easy to do in the sort of phase 1. So as we get the momentum on this project, we can have some cabins that are just amazing to stay at. So we did keep 5 up there. Then over on at the top, we did decrease those from 14 single family lots to 12, just to give it space in the essence of working with the land more. On the right-hand side, there's a line that goes from top to bottom. That's my beautiful graphics. And it should be flowing. So there is a drainage from Golden Eagle that goes through there. And we had feedback that we should maybe remove 1 or 2. We actually removed any cluster that had any feeling that it might be there. So we actually over remove them to keep that space, because we just feel like it's a beautiful natural path that should be kept. The line that goes from left to right, you see these townhomes down here, they used to loop around that natural spring. We decided, we have also been in-depth talks with the traffic engineer and with UDOT since we last met with you all. And what they pointed out was, if we make this a resort community versus a residential development, so resort development versus residential, that brings in the sales tax revenue. That also decreases the traffic. So a resort community are usually here around 50% or less versus living every day. So minimizing traffic. And then if we can minimize traffic and cluster it on the road, you'll see now that the first 1/3 of the road is the busy, and it keeps the next one as you go up towards the neighborhood as less busy. So changing this townhome area on the right-hand side to a cul-de-sac versus a drive-through was part of that plan, but it was also to sectionalize off the casitas. Now the casitas, I feel like we talk to them more as individual casitas, but what we do really want to let you know is this is another hotel. This is a 1 tax parcel, 50 casitas that are basically 50 rooms. This is going to be owned by us and run as a resort. This is not homes with Airbnbs. So this is basically a second resort that isn't densified into a 3-acre parcel. It's over a very large acreage of 50 income-making revenue streams for the city with the sales tax that brings, but low density impact on traffic because these are not full-time users as well. And we really, with a resort to be successful in the high end that we're trying to have happen here, it needs to be private. So with the townhomes going through it, that wasn't private. So also minimizing those townhomes and changing that road, you can now see that this is a corner that is very private, which helps get the luxury type versus we really heard, and it wasn't from the planning commission, it was more from, we had a meeting with all the Golden Eagle residents. We heard it was really important to them to bring in the right people to this. And so several of our changes have been to really stay true to the branding, that this is to bring in similar demographic of people that live here already. And we want to have intellectual conversations when we're at the coffee store. And so a lot of the changes and tweaks are also towards that as well. We did change the trails too, to have strategy. So every trail should land at something that gets you to the commercial village and not put you on a road. So you can walk your dog or you could ride your bike, or land you at the lookout. So you can get from the commercial village or your place up to the lookout, or land you at the amphitheater. So there's sort of the 3 points that we want people to actively go to in trails. And then we have a trail system going through the bottom of the house property that would hopefully go to a traffic light that goes across to Hideout. And we have the trail up to Golden Eagle. I think we changed that to the left-hand side because we wanted to keep we didn't want them riding through the private feeling of the casitas. So we have also that going through the house property too, to get to those 3 locations. I think that's it on the changes. Any questions, or do you want me to hand back the screen, Thomas?
You guys have any questions on that while she's got that image up, which is a little bit larger and easier to see?
Does this new map take into account the rules on the 30% slope such that you're confident that things will be located roughly according to this map?
Yes, and that's Jonathan, I think, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we have that, and that's part of the submission that, you know, with this, with the town. And so you can see the dark red is 30%. There's white is, you can see the gradient there on the right. So you really want to try to stay in the white and the green. And so, yes, we've taken that into account as we've planned this. And, you know, the road that cuts through the property goes through a few red areas, but that was an easement that was already done with Golden Eagle. And so our hands are a little tied on that one. But outside of that, there's really only one area that we have cut through that zone, and it's for the 4 lots in the bottom right hand of the screen. They cut through a small portion of that to kind of get up to another buildable pad. But yes, we've looked at that very closely.
And my other question was with respect to water in the well. If you connect more than one house to a well, is there some number beyond which you also have to do processing of the water? And do you have a handle on that?
Yes, if we were to turn the well in our property into a well that services, you're right, like more than one house or almost like a commercial well, you have water quality standards that you have to go through. You have very rigorous gallons per minute standards to certify it. And then you would also need a holding tank. So like a property like this, the numbers I worked out with Max this morning was a holding tank of about 500,000 gallons for the whole property. Now, if we were doing half and say JSSD was doing half, we would need less technically, but let's just work off 500,000 gallons. And going through that with him and the costs, he said, you know, it used to be $1.50 a gallon to build these, but maybe figure $2 a gallon. So you're looking, just if you're curious like me, you're looking at about $1 million to build a storage tank for that. You then obviously would have other fees associated with that, with upkeep and running lines to the tank, but just a high level kind of understanding for you. So yes, and like I kind of mentioned earlier, there's other requirements that the city may have. So yeah, it's not like we say, hey, we have a well and we're going to start running lines to houses. There's definitely we've got the division of drinking water that would test it, that we'd have to go through also in conjunction with the town.
Okay, thank you.
This is Peter. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes. Welcome.
I thank you. I do have a question. I'm confused by the casitas. Is that going to be part of the hotel flag and that reservation system, or you're running those separately?
Yeah, Peter, great question. So no. So I'm just going to repeat from last time. It may have even changed of the plan and the partners and who's developing, just so we all sort of have a high level understanding of that. Right now, the hotel partner is a partner that we bring on. Ryan and I are not experts at building a hotel. And so we're very excited about teaming up and having a hotel develop that. Commercial, we will be looking for commercial partners to bring on. We are experts at end placing the commercial partners. But as far as the development of that, that's not our specialty. So we'd bring on a partner for development on that. The townhomes, in last meeting, we were talking about potentially bringing on a partner for that. Since that, we've talked to a very great partner, and we are now looking at potentially we will hire them to build, and we will actually be the developers on that, which allows us to keep the feeling and end use of how it looks with the whole development in alignment, which is very important to us, that the development is true to the soul of what we're doing. So the townhomes, we may actually be the developers on now, which has changed since the last concept meeting. So I wanted to let you guys know that. The casitas, Ryan and I have always had that project as ours. We have been looking for several years for land location for casitas and retreats, including out in the winters in California in several locations. And so that has been a project. It's our passion project that we both want to make our life projects. The fact that this is on this land is one of the reasons that we're choosing this land. So the casitas would be us developing and running it as a resort hotel. So it would have, so as far as we're looking at zoning, it's not residential. So it would have a meeting area. So imagine you CEOs want to bring together their C-level or corporate to an event. What do they need? So they may need a meeting area on this site. There may need to be a small little restaurant too back here in the casita area, in the hotel casita area. There might be a little retail as they check in and have some hats and things like that. So it is, I do feel like we messaged it. We haven't fully messaged it like that. So I do want to make it clear of what this is and appreciate you asking, because it's not little beautiful luxury cabins that we're selling to people. This is a casita resort. Is that helpful?
Yeah, no, I understand that. So that doesn't conflict with the flag. They know that you'll be running those casitas when you've talked to them.
Yeah, they do know that. They're happy with the casita. And the reason it's the flag is a more limited service type of flag for them. Mm-hmm. And so we're also hitting a different price point. They're planning in their pro forma $175 to $600 a night. And whereas the casitas, we are targeting $1,000 a night plus. So they really actually like the fact that we're hitting different demographics and price points.
In your conversations with the flag, are they giving you key money or not? Or that hasn't come up yet?
They say that again.
What do you mean by key?
Key money is when the franchisor contributes to the building cost of the hotel. That's called key money.
Yeah, it's a we have our LOI signed. We talk to them every day. It's a brand. It's one of the biggest brands in the world. So you would know them and I think you'd feel very comfortable. So yeah, they are.
So we have the LOI signed. We have the LOI, but we need the concept
True. We have to get through this meeting.
Yes, you guys need to say yes.
Got it. Okay.
But that's
Okay,
signed.
so-
We can actually
so right
know.
now, so the answer to my question is right now, there's no plan for key money from the flag.
Right now, we don't have that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate your answers.
Yeah.
And just to go a little further into that, they have this time that it's taken to get concept has allowed them to talk to a great builder that's actually building one of the builders across the street in Tuhei, like in the area, and that's who they're talking to on the build. They're working on vision concepts for us, and they're really excited. They came and walked the land and heard our vision, and we're giddy. We got the LOI. Like they are a partner that's not just about money. They believe in this location. They believe in Hideout, that we are at the gateway of the Uintas. We have the night sky, that we have trails. We have the non-motorized boat launch that you could potentially trail to from their hotel if we can do connectivity. Yeah,
And they've been looking in Park City specifically for
for 3 years.
Yeah, for 3 years.
Yeah. They're ready.
I assume that are they targeting sort of the ADR of Black Rock Hotel as their comp and what they think they can achieve, or
Yeah,
they don't view it that way.
it's a little different. They're going to go after more recreational type clientele. With the location of the Uintas and the lake and Park City. So they are going after a little different demographic. I feel like their room rate is probably going to be a little lower than BlackRock because it's more limited service rather than having the hotel or the restaurant and all that stuff. They will have a pool and different things, but it's going to be more limited service.
Understood. Okay, thank you
Yeah.
very much. Appreciate your answers.
Can you explain again the multifamily units? I'm kind of confused to how they are different from townhouses.
Yeah, sure. So so if you imagine these back to here, having another level at the top and think of them as more a penthouse type thing. So these are not, yeah, you can talk to this.
Yes. So this is Thomas's dream. Is it okay if I talk to this, Thomas? But as a city planner, one thing that they really look for is diversity of housing. And this adds some diversity of housing, which will be apartments in the commercial. So I think you could look at like Redstone. They have units above the commercial. But you could look over where across from Whole Foods, like the Mod Pizza is, they have units above the commercial. So they would be units like that. It wouldn't be one building with just 8 units. There would be units like above the commercial or below, just depending on the grade and the slope. And so that's how they'd work into it. We are planning 4 buildings, and then like two units per building is really kind of like the high level of what we're looking at for them.
So they would be rental?
I'm sorry,
Rental property?
rental. Yes, or they could go with the commercial space. They would have, their own tax ID. So they could also be someone that wanted to live there long-term.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and there's the multi-flex over by Home Depot, the Forestdale units that have done really well, where they're sort of more a small business. And then they have the rental unit on top, which they could use for vendors that come in, and it's actually quite a addition for a smaller business commercial to have an ability to utilize that. So we're glad Thomas brought it up.
And part of that conversation, so you also understand, is we took out 4 townhome pads to break up the massing.
To go up to the lookout.
And also go up to the lookout and add a trail. And
our numbers
as
are
we were
pretty tight, right?
as
now.
we were complaining to Thomas, what for?
Yeah.
He's like, if you would actually add a few of these units and kind of trade it out, this would be great. So we started looking at it and say, okay, that makes sense. There are a lot of commercial businesses that would love to have a little place where they could live or rent out, and it kind of helps make the commercial viable. I think you've probably heard a lot how the commercial is probably one of the harder property types to make viable in this location. So we felt like that's going to give a really good foundation and help with the viability of the commercial.
And I would just add to that, to Jenny and Ryan's credit, if you have a one-story commercial building, you already have a footprint onto the landscape, right? There's a benefit to actually looking at the upper or the lower level, depending upslope, downslope, to consider for residential, that kind of true mixed use, whether it's kind of the live work concept that Jenny and Ryan were noting, or whether it's, terraced balconies units that might be more modestly priced than some of the the townhomes, the single family homes, of course, in the community. So it again provides that kind of housing differentiation and typology. So I think that's what we had initially kind of thought of as an opportunity. If we pull density from somewhere else, we've already got a building footprint here. We're already impacting the environment, stormwater issues, et cetera. So it just provided an easy opportunity to diversify.
Which areas will be closed to the public then in this new design?
We have a map for that.
Great.
Somewhere.
It's like we're on to you, Jonathan.
I think so. You've been nailing every one of my concerns so far.
Can you see this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So this is trails and roads. So let me talk it through. So the blue road is public road. The green would be private that we would maintain. So you see the green is in the casita area, and then also in the gated single family routes right there. And then the tiny little 5 bundle of casitas up here. The trails, the red, we would make public. So you can see they come in to those 3 locations, the beautiful lookout in the top area, the commercial village. So once you get to here, there is a sidewalk that comes around to that place. And then the amphitheater would be a location those trails get to. Over in the resort, we have them as private trails. So the resort people can do what they want and go in a loop and get to maybe the meditation cave over here, or come to the facility to have a little gathering and get together with their corporate events. So as far as public and private as these areas of lookout, we would like to have the ability to run events in these places. So like the amphitheater event or an event on the lookout, maybe a Sunday market. Is it a good place to host a wedding moment up there? So there may be times where you'll come across events. But they would be generally public areas that we would want people to enjoy the land as well.
And also on the roads, with the private roads, and I'm not sure, I haven't been down on the lower side of Hideout, but just even Soaring Hawk, the roads need a lot of work. It's an expense for the city for sure. And so, we're keeping the portions in the green. It's something we had envisioned that we would end up maintaining and repairing and keeping, up to the standards that you would expect for an area like that.
Okay.
Jenny and Ryan, it's Joel. Thanks for this additional information about the casitas. Sounds like it's kind of like a Carneros Inn type of setting, if you're familiar with that in Napa. So I haven't counted your updated image yet. I assume your check-in, you mentioned maybe the event space, that's all over in the casita area, or would check-in be down in the commercial space? You'd have the restaurant down there, the event space. And then one other question, the 5 casitas kind of on the left side of the project, are those also included in the resort, or are those more for, I don't know, private use?
Good question, and welcome to the committee. Go ahead, Jenny.
Yeah, so we visualize, and we do want to let you know at this point, this is concept.
Sure.
And once you say yes, we'll lean in more and think of it more as hubs, right? So once we have a hub of the casita, we will get in the top specialists and consultants to help us work with the land. We're going to go stand at every piece and put a pole on them and feel it, and we might move it a little bit. So there is some tweaking to each. This is the concept, the density, the location. So we'll tell you what we're visualizing, but as we get along, we might get told by people smarter than us that it is better to have it at the entrance and in the commercial. But right now we sort of have this little, can you see my mouse? Okay, this isn't a casita. This is more a potential structure. Is it the welcome area? Is it where they check in? Do we have a little retail? Is there a little 20-person
Yoga.
restaurant? Is there
something like
yoga
that.
here? So we have something there that potentially would be the check-in, but that's not a casita. That is a structure. And then on this is a beautiful knob. It's gorgeous. Originally we thought casitas there, but it's a place and a moment that we just want to keep natural. But this could be a great place to gather people together, like 20 people. And what does that look like? Does it have a little kitchen? Could you do something there? So we want another meeting resort place there, is what we're thinking. And then in the back corner here, you can see the parking. Is there cold plunges, or what is the amenity that the resort would use there?
And then on I think the gathering space, kind of the reception area, that would not be in the resort. That would be down in the commercial area.
The banquet room,
Yeah,
like
the banquet
bigger
room.
open space.
So it'd be
Yeah.
separate. It'd be close to a restaurant, full service restaurant that we'd have there. Our dream is to have a restaurant with the rooftop bar. The hotel is not planning on a restaurant. So that kind of answered that question. Would they have one? Would we do one? Since they're not, that was part of us increasing the square footage. There is planning for a restaurant, rooftop kind of place to hang out and enjoy the views. And then also that seems to make sense to have this meeting area close by so that it can be easily catered from the restaurant and that it's close to the hotel also. Was that all of your
Oh, no,
questions?
he asked about the 5 casitas.
Oh, yeah, the
So
5
the
casitas.
5 casitas over here would be part of the resort. And they got beautiful views.
Thank you.
So the parking for the amphitheater, I thought you said something about it being like using the green space.
Yeah, so the amphitheater is 300 to 500 people. And as we're doing an in-depth traffic study right now on parking, and because it's not residential, it's a resort community, it's different. There's different timings and phases of when people would come in. So the amphitheater would be for the Hideout community, which with trails, and we also have a bus drop-off planned in here as well for public transit, and that most of the resort community can walk. They're still doing the study for us, but we have 100 grass parking spots here that could be utilized in the summer for overflow if there wasn't enough down here as well.
And our vision with that is, having as many people, since we're close, you ride your bikes or walk there, we're talking warm weather when we want to be out walking like that versus now.
How many parking spaces are actually in the commercial area?
It's a good question. I don't think
Is it
know
listed on here?
offhand.
I don't
There's-
know if we know offhand.
We
can-
do have numbers, and they do the numbers based on the, per square foot for the commercial, and then for the rooms on the hotel. And also, I just wanted to add, the hotel isn't going to, it's really more of a hotel. It's not as much of a condo hotel that you would see like BlackRock, where you come in and you have a living room, kitchen, dining room, and then a couple rooms off to the side. It's going to be a true hotel setup. So that will actually be less square footage, per unit, say, than BlackRock is.
I do think that's around 120 though, just that section there, to give her an idea.
Yeah.
So she can visually.
Yeah, You can,
I don't want to
Thomas,
say anything wrong.
what can
though.
you usually fit
Yeah.
on an acre? About 130, 140 spots, somewhere in there.
Yeah, depending on maybe your stormwater needs, maybe a little less, but yeah.
So Rachel, we'll stay on the parking. If you look at the hotel area there to the right, like uphill, there's area there that we could add parking. That's definitely, the last thing you want is you come to dinner, you come to check in and there's not a parking spot.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's you, Rachel, or someone did ask about the parking. And so we did work on that with Brad, our land planner. And that's where he said, oh, we can just add a row all the way over here if we want. And we're like, let's not do it now. We don't need to. He assured us that this was to code to the hotel amount of space, and he wouldn't budge an inch on the parking that was needed for commercial. So we feel confident that this plan is sort of to scale on enough parking that's needed, but that's from experts, not from me. I'm not a parking expert. It's from the people that we're bringing in to talk to about it.
Could you run through, I know phase one is going to be the commercial, the hotel, and the townhomes. Could you just run through phase 2, 3, et cetera, so we know what's what?
I love when Jonathan asks us something that we have a visual for.
And we did not coordinate.
Yeah. So phase one is the red here in the bottom corner. And this is really important because it goes back to the water topic too. So in the red here is the hotel, 40 townhomes. And I'm going to add the commercial because who doesn't want the commercial up and thriving anyway? It's not phase one, but it's a staggered. Phase 2 is this first lot of commercial that's with this next lot of townhomes here, if that makes sense. And so phase 1 doesn't need to end for us to start phase 2, but phase 1 is the first one we're going for. And then phase 2 commercial might be seriously being planned 2 months later type thing, just to give you an idea. But phase 1 here with that commercial is what requires those 50 water shares. So with those 50 that we secured from JSSD that we can get going straight away, we can have this up and thriving. With the hotel, they're aiming to have that at the end of 2025. So we can have the revenue from all of this, which is over 250,000, starting to come in as sales tax revenue to the community in this phase 1 getting going straight away. And with phase 1, infrastructure needs to go in. So we need your yes tonight on concept so that we can then start the talks for the PID. And the PID is infrastructure with the city, which is also a process. Once the city approves that, we can start infrastructure within 60 to 90 days. From that, the hotel can start building. They're saying they're a 10-month, well, let's just say 12 months to get open. And so they're eager and excited to make that at the end of 2025 or like winter season of 2025. So that would be phase 1, which is aggressive. But the puzzle pieces are there. And if we can all team up as could come to fruition then. The next phase is, it's sorry that we've done the colors. The colors are so close. Are they looking close to you all as well? Or is it my eyes?
Just the left side of the road.
So
Yeah,
the, yeah, phase 1 is also the road going all the way through. Phase 2 is this commercial starting as soon as possible. And then these other townhomes and the 5 casitas here. Now, the reason we're adding the 5 casitas in that is because Ryan and I want to concept test. So those 5 casitas are going to be our concept testers and see what works best before we start the big project in another phase. And so that's why that's sort of snuck in to these phases too. Phase 3 is the green. And so that's as the community grows, we can grow the commercial. So we want to have enough density and numbers for the commercials to want to have demand. So that's why phase 3 is the second half of this commercial here. And then the townhomes here on the right-hand side.
Could you discuss what you currently anticipate the timing for each phase would be? I know you said 12 months roughly aggressively for phase 1. How about 2, 3, and 4, or 5?
Yeah, and I do have a performer with that on it, which would help me if I pull it up so I can read to it. Do you guys want to see it as I read it, or?
We can tell them it's,
Okay.
there's a lot.
I'm just curious how,
Yeah.
how far out you need to go, because I'm curious about, you said something about starting phase 2 before finishing phase 1.
Yeah.
That was a little bit of a concern.
Well, okay, so when I say that, infrastructure's in. So when infrastructure's in, you can start building pads. So infrastructure's in phase 1, but obviously the hotel and the townhomes are going to follow the infrastructure. So phase 1 is in phases as well. Once the infrastructure is in, there's no reason, if we have a partner in commercial, to not start that as well. Right now, we focused on the hotel partner to get us the key community ecosystem thriving. We have that, so that's phase 1. So I should more say this portion of phase 2 may join phase 1. Sorry, so I'm not trying to say we're overlapping them. If we get a commercial partner that's ready to go and build, they could definitely start in phase 1 once the infrastructure is in at the same time as the hotel. So I hope that clarifies that a bit. But do you want to?
Because securing the water is going to be key, I think, in my mind, before you start moving on to other phases.
Yeah, and the commercial is in that water phase of 50. So I've included that. So that's why there's sort of an overlap. The commercial is like the stepchild that we would love to do in phase 1. We've put in phase 2, but just all awareness. If the right partners come and are ready to go, where we want them in phase 1 as well.
And truth be told, based on like what we worked on even today, we would probably change that map and move that commercial and kind of put it all together, because it is lumped in with this first batch of water shares that we have.
Okay. And are you comfortable committing that there'll be no above ground sewer pumping facilities like we have in other areas of the town?
I don't think we're educated on that enough to commit to that live right now, but we're committed to making this a very attractive community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think based on my knowledge so far of the development and the grade, it looks like everything can gravity flow down to this entrance on the bottom of the map. The only area that may be a little bit of a challenge would be this row of townhomes on the right that are green. We haven't sat down with our, the engineer and really planned the nuts and bolts of those things. But, for cost reason, we wouldn't want that. And also for looks. So that's definitely high on our list to not end up with like a pumping station. Jenny has a sump pump in her house, and I think she's replaced it twice in the last 2 years. So this is something that we have personal experience with on a smaller scale that we'd stay away from at all costs.
So could you commit to saying that if there are to be above ground pumping facilities, they'll be enclosed in something that matches aesthetically the community then?
Love it. It's
Please.
gonna look like the settler's cabin or something. It'll be probably the coolest looking shed. I agree. I don't quite know what the other ones look like, but it will definitely be something we want to fit in with the aesthetics of the neighborhood.
All right. And any gases, noxious gas will be vented vertically rather than horizontally then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Thank you.
I think we found the person that's writing this portion. We agree with.
Yeah.
Fair
We
enough.
want
Thank
the
you.
same thing. We're living there too and using it. So yeah.
I missed where the parking was for the amphitheater.
Yeah, so just going to the amphitheater. So I would call it a grass area with a stage versus a amphitheater event center. This is most of the year going to be a grass area and could be used for events. Like the stage could be beautiful for a wedding and people being around, or for a corporate event to sit and host it. As far as hosting events, it could be 3 to 7 in summer for the community, and probably sponsored by us as a developer. If the city wanted to hire out the venue or have pitch something, that would be great as well. So it's more a community grass area with stage. Less we're hosting big events, selling tickets. That is not what it is. So as far as the parking for it, it would be on a in this area here where we have parking, and then overflow if needed would come off this roundabout up here. This is all grass and will be flat and could have grass parking there, and then you'd walk up from there.
Okay, thanks.
Who was that, by the way?
I think it was Glennis.
Glynis.
Hi,
Yeah,
Glennis. I didn't.
my video went out on me for some reason.
Okay.
And for just some background also on that, and we did change this a little bit from the prior map. We put this cul-de-sac up here on the top so that this is a drop-off area, and you could be dropped off from the top and walk down versus the bottom and walking up. So we changed that a little bit. Also, push comes to shove, you can park in the roundabout, you know, that area there. And then down here below it, on that road, we're going to add likely some parking also. Not a lot, you know, you can probably fit 20. Yeah, there's 20 plus spaces there, the roundabout, and then the 100 parking. So those are our plans of where the parking would go.
So will this be a community amphitheater in the sense of, will the town have to pay to use the space at all, or will it be?
Yeah, well, we would love to win-win. So if there's insurance and costs of people having to come there and liability and everything like that and hosting the event, we would love, we don't need to make money off it. But we would work with the town on hosting it, booking it so that it's, I mean, maybe it could be the town can host X amount a year. We would love to understand what the town wants and work with them on the same mission for it. And I think that's a great conversation that we need to have. And we are open. We are going to remember be living right here. We want this amphitheater and what it is to be great and great things. So, yeah, is that helpful? Without really answering, we need follow-up conversation with the city and want to work with the city as a we. So.
Hey, Thomas, I have a question. So if this, the casitas are going to be a resort community and so there'll be nightly rentals, does that mean we need to what? Do what we're doing?
You're thinking of the next ordinance that we'll actually be discussing
Right,
tonight.
exactly. Yeah.
Short-term rentals, nightly rental overlay district. But yeah, that would be something that down the road that we would want to, subject to the approval, that we would want to overlay onto this. So if this gets a recommendation for them to move forward to the next step would be a rezoning application that would start to look at the zoning, maybe some neighborhood commercial down at the bottom, different kinds of residential as we move up the hillside. One of the things that we would look at is an overlay for short-term rentals, assuming that's the agreement with Planning Commission and then certainly Town Council. But yes, to answer the question, because right now we don't have anything in place to allow short-term rentals. That would be the only mechanism that we would have in place.
And can I ask, is that Polly?
That's
It's Glynis again.
Hey, so I would love to talk through this. So we believe the more we come together right now, the quicker it's going to go through later, right? And we want to make sure we talk to the essence of this community and what it's going to be. So talking to that, and I'm not really talking to you on this, I'm talking to all of us, so we can all be aligned when we do go through zoning and that it's for the same goal. So I just go back to that this portion, the 72 acres, is a resort development, not a residential development. And by that, the goals are to bring in sales tax revenue to help our community thrive so that I can live here and my kids can have kids and bring grandkids back, and we can all be very sustainable and financially happy with our city. So a resort community gives more sales tax to the city than residential gives none. So having said that, Ryan and I in our development work back from that. So the townhomes, instead of them being 3-bedroom and having lots of storage, which would attract a second home person. Maybe they're designed for 4-bedroom with a rooftop deck and minimal storage. So the buyer, the end user, is incentivized to have short-term. These are made for short-term luxury, so that we get the goal of helping the sales tax revenue come in from this community. So it's not a residential community. All the designs are going to be designed for maximizing getting someone on our vision, if it's not us who ends up owning it and they have bought the townhome, to also be aligned with what this community's goal is to do. So as we go for zoning, the casitas would be, in my mind, more a hotel on landscape, because it needs these other requirements that are in hotel zoning type thing. It needs common areas. It might need a maintenance facility for us to keep our maintenance landscaping in and things like that. The homes and the townhomes would ideally be short-term rental to encourage this community to be that community that is a resort community that can fuel the goals of our city and the development as we have concepted it to you as well. So
And
hopefully that's helpful.
And you have hit on something that as you go through the zoning of the city, it's lacking a little bit in this kind of thing for short-term type of rentals, or like even this landscape hotels, what we're calling the casita area. So as we look through it, we scratch our heads along with Thomas and go, which one does this fit in? This doesn't really fit in any of these. So that's, yeah, it sounds like maybe something you guys are talking about, but
And
it's
you can
definitely
would love.
right. Definitely
Yeah.
something we've talked about.
And yeah, just
Okay.
along that line, just to clarify, I think that what we'd probably do is dedicate land uses up the hillside, as Jenny and Ryan were noted, make sure that we meet the densities. So maybe it's neighborhood mixed use, maybe there's some higher density residential, and then lower density as you get up higher. But there would be an overlay over those 72 acres that would allow for short-term rentals, just so that everybody understands that's the way the current code is being envisioned. So it would give that authority to them.
Correct. Right now, however, it's currently zoned as mountain residential, correct?
That's right.
Yes.
Okay, so we have to change the zoning.
Yeah, we would have to change the zoning, but even regardless of the short-term rental issue, they would have to change
Right.
to do this
Right.
kind of layout. So yeah, to your point, yeah,
Okay.
So are
I
you-
just wanted to clarify.
you're absolutely right. That is the next big step.
So I want to clarify also, Ryan, are you talking about maintaining ownership of all of the property?
Us, no, we would sell. So the townhomes would be for sale. Is that what you mean? Yeah, the townhomes, the hotels sold. Much of the commercial will probably be sold to individual users. So what would be kept would be the 12 single family lots up on that cul-de-sac, the 50 casitas, and then those 4 lots there that really go with the casitas.
So it is still possible that not all the property would actually be short-term rental.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
And we, in our pro forma, we put, let's say the townhomes, we put them as only 10% income of the hotel as far as nightly use and things. So we did envision for a lot more personal use of the townhomes. Yes, you would be able to rent them, but we feel like there's going to be a lot of people that just will live there, or they will keep it as a second home or something like that. So we did actually stagger the rental numbers for, say, the townhomes.
And so the property, the west property, is also currently zoned as mountain residential.
Yes.
Yes.
And so I think Jonathan brought that up on the last call. So we are purchasing the properties in 2 purchases. One is the 72 acres, and then the Salzman's, then we're going to purchase the house after that. So the Salzmans have asked us to keep the zoning and the house land the same and not do anything with that. but we want to show you worst case scenario. We also intend to live there and not do anything with it. We would like to have a barn. We would potentially like to build a couple of casitas for our parents somewhere, but we haven't even started the thought on that. We're focusing on the 72 acres. But our idea is to live in it and live there for generations to come, but something could happen to us and it could be sold. So what are you saying yes to? So we have a worst case scenario, which I hate. Oh gosh, I didn't know if I have it on here. Oh, here it is. It's terrible. I hate it.
So the mountain residential, there are requirements to that. It has to be 1 acre, not including roads. Has to have 200 feet of frontage. So basically squares type lots in that. So of the 42 acres, you couldn't put 42 units. What we did was we took the existing driveway, we put in a couple of roads and, gave the house a little breathing space, but not much. And, we came up with 25 units would be what we feel the max if someone say wanted to develop this, that's what laid out as we did this, really to give you an idea of like, hey, what does it look like? How many can you actually do? And so that's what we came up with.
And so to give you an idea of how that looks.
We have less than zero plan of doing this, but just kind of giving you an understanding. I think in Thomas's report too, he even added that number, the 25 possible on the west side with what we're currently going for, just to give you an idea of the total overview.
And to see how that looks with the other communities, it actually blends in well, even though it gives me, like, there's no way this house person, no, I don't want to live there and see that stuff. But that's the worst case with the zoning. What could be done is 25. So if you look, it actually blends in very well with the ethos of the community as well. But this is to show you guys worst case scenario. Yeah.
Where is the road coming out? Like,
Of which
Right.
one here?
No, on the screen that we have up, or that one.
yeah,
Yeah. So this is
in
a
relation to like Hideout Trail.
Okay, that's
you want me to
this
go
is
back?
no, I think that's okay.
Okay.
Maybe that's the current, to give you perspective.
So this
There you
is
go.
high level. So you see Tuhey down here,
Right.
and then it crosses over to Golden Eagle. You see the development here, and that is on the easement right now. And this actually
Ties into
ties
Golden
in,
Eagle.
but we're not on their property, so we'd have to. That's why it's not on here. And then down here this is the Hideout entrance right now, and
Okay.
this is the
Soaring Hawk.
Soaring Hawk.
Yeah.
And this is the driveway to the Salzman's house here. So
Would you consider not rezoning this parcel with to the west there and just leaving it zoned as is for now? And then if you decide you want to develop it at some point, you could bring an application at that point. Is that something you would consider?
that's what we would love to do. So rezoning and designing is a lot of money for us and time. And since we have no plans of developing it, we would rather push all our energy on this 72 acre development. Let's work with you. Let's get this done.
Mhm.
And if you would let us, we have zero plan. We don't need to put any energy on that. We will promise you, if we ever developed it, it would never be more than 25. So we can promise that with this. But as far as getting into the weeds on it and working out roads and spending time and money, we feel like that's a tangent for getting this 72 done.
I'd be very comfortable if you just said, okay, we're going to leave that parcel, that, shaped like this. I don't have a pointer, obviously, but on the west side there, just leave that around the house zoned as is for now. And then if you decide you want to develop something there, or you sell it off and someone else wants to, they could come back and we could reevaluate at that point in time.
Exactly. So that parcel isn't even part of this, the submission,
We
right? So
wanna
a
leave it the
vote
same.
tonight and, moving on to zoning and changing zoning does not even touch that parcel. So you're right. Anything else that need to be done there.
Would need to be a new application. You all would get to analyze it. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
So just
Just so also I'm clear, so you're just applying for the eastern side for the 72 acres, basically, and nothing, the western side is completely independent. I'm looking, it looks like maybe there would be some trails.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. So the west side would be completely independent, but once we own the property, we would be in control of being able to say, let's put trails through, and we can write that in somewhere, is that we are very passionate about connecting. I have a 6 and 12-year-old, and I want my kids to be able to ride the trails and get to Hideout and get down to the lake when we rent a boat and come over to that side of the road. And I want them to do that safely. And yeah, we're very passionate about the connectivity there.
So I see an access road easement. I'm just trying to understand. I mean, so really what your concept vision is only on the east side. There's really nothing on the west side. I guess you could do a deed restriction of the maximum number of lots that would be permitted on that as part of this.
Holly, but that would probably be at time of rezoning for the east
Right.
side, part of an MDA, right? Because
Right,
they're
that's
not going to touch it otherwise. Okay.
Yeah. Right. I mean, there are different ways to skin the cat, right? But I'm just trying to understand. And so the planning commission can understand the interplay, and there are mechanisms to ensure that even if they are independent, that only a certain amount of density occurs on the other side, that type of thing.
Yeah, and that was
And any amenities that are being promised on that east side would have to be included at that MDA stage.
yeah, and that's really why we worked up that site plan. It was really for our own understanding, so that we could at least talk to that. When Jonathan asked the question last time, we didn't know how many would fit on there because we'd never done that. And so that's why we worked that up and came up with the number of 20. I think actually it's 24.
Plus the house is
Yeah, 24. And then to also clarify, it might look like, right, that we're doing something on the west side because there's trails through there and that road. But those are really just access points, right, that we're, adding for the development. We're not asking, because of those roads, we're not asking for any zoning or any changes over there.
Those would just be access easements to get to the eastern part of the site, right? If I'm, yeah.
Where do you envision the connectivity to the other side of the road
So
across 248?
yeah, so the connectivity, so we've gone out and sat there and several times. When I say there, right here, can you see my marker of where it exits? This trail, again, anything you approve tonight will get better or stay the same, right? So we think there's a better way to get through here, but we had to get this into Thomas back a week ago before we could get it on. But by better, it just means less curves through here. So the concept is getting from point A to point B over here through there in the best way possible. Originally, we had it going across here, across the driveway, but we feel like, let me go to the high level here. If there could be a way from, where's the traffic light entrance? Right here. It's very close. If there was a traffic light here, and now traffic light means lower speeds. I also love the concept of flags that people can walk across with. I mean, I'm thinking of my kids here, so sorry, I'm going to go a little more in depth on the safety. But then if there's a trail along here to get to a connection point, it would then go from here through to this area, ending there on the easiest, most logical route.
And then we've also designed a trail to come out on the east side here, to come through this property if this is ever developed. From talking to the state, sounds like the 2 traffic lights are planned, who don't really have a ETM when they will put those in, but one at Tuhey and one also at Hideout So we want to make sure, and also I think for topography, it's probably the easiest access points, which is why those roads are there. You know, this big bend where that scenic view is, it's quite the drop off. That road is built on a lot of fill. So for the most part, that stretch of the highway has pretty challenging topography.
Where is the lookout on 248?
It's like
It's right.
right.
Oh,
No, it's down. It's right there.
so you come
It's right
around.
there. It's like
Is that it there? No, is it? It looks like that. Maybe that's it.
It's right there.
I think it's further, isn't it closer to
Right.
Two
Lookout is-
Hay?
The lookout is right where that blue line extends down
There.
Yeah.
on the middle of the property.
Okay.
Yeah, it's somewhere there, I think. And then this drops off really steep
Mhm.
here. And so we have had a meeting with UDOT. And so great news, there are breakpoints here. So that's awesome. And then just working with them on safety and potentially not allowing a left-hand turn here. We just really want to avoid anything that could ever potentially harm anyone in our community.
So that's
Yeah.
actually, that's a very valid point. So the you have the turn lane for Hideout right here. And the driveway right now is actually too close to the Hideout turn lane to add another turn lane. So UDOT, there was no way ever that UDOT will allow that to be an entrance and exit onto the highway for development. You know, so other plans maybe had that as a main entrance. Hideout or UDOT would never allow that because of the turn lane issue and it being too close. So they actually like this plan as we've shown it because you can come up to the main entrance and then that access road we added to the house, you know, you'd be able to get to the house also from the main
Instead of
entrance.
turning left here, you could come in, but you can leave that way because it's a right turn. So yeah, we had a really great conversation with them that was great information on that.
So where's the existing driveway to the house? I'm a little confused.
Yeah,
It's
right here.
down
Let's
there?
go back
Okay.
to this one because
See, that's harder to see.
right here, no?
Yeah.
It goes like
It's-
this, it works
it's-
around and.
Rachel, it's the gate, if you know where that is.
Yeah,
There's the real estate sign there and there's the gate that sits back off the road.
We would also like to host events like Easter egg hunts. Up on the top area here, or Ryan's big passion is apple.
Like fall festival,
Fall
apple cider
festival.
days, just, yeah.
So I don't know who that committee is, but we'll be hitting you up.
I guess what I really meant by connectivity was, we've talked numerous times about either a over the road or an under the road tunnel.
Yes, so we are in it with the city to help solve that problem. Monetary wise, let's just put it out there because that's we need to get a development agreement with the city. We do believe, and we've seen it, I just don't have the number, but the past developer had a monetary amount that was in there for that. We would love to have a ratio in tandem amount with them. So let's say they were asking for 600 and we're asking for 40% less. Let's make our amount that. Because as a developer, we make money off our density. And so having 230 density versus 600 doesn't give us the ability to contribute as much as they were. So we are in to work with that. And if it could be a ratio, yes, like that would be great. We just, if it becomes too much, then we're going to have to come back and ask for more density to pay for that and change the concept, which then slows it down. So the other thing is I would love us to have connectivity and see if the traffic light and a trail works and people feel safe. I'm the biggest non-safe person with my kids. Like I'm mama bear on them. And so I would love to be around that. And I'm not just saying it to get out of money. When Ryan, the DOT said to us, the house is fine there. You can have people turn left. We're like, we will pay any money to not have a head-on crash with anyone. So it's not about money. It's about safety. We're on the same team with all of you in this. We just ask that it's in a ratio that matches our density so that we can thrive and the town can thrive as well. Yeah, and then just to be a part of that, whatever the solution is, if it digs up our road and now people can't get to our commercial, and now that's delaying our commercial and places that we're bringing in for 3 or 4 years, like just to be around a solution that helps the city, helps us team up with the city too. So does that answer the question for you?
Yeah, that sounds reasonable to weigh it according to the density.
And just for clarity, Glynis, if this got the recommendation to move forward, that would be something that would be part of an MDA, part of discussion at zoning. But understanding it now is essential. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think hearing our commitment to it is good for you guys to hear. And just how we can make it a win-win. So we're not here to negotiate. We're here to be a team on it, and we'd love to have that conversation. So hopefully that helps you with knowing where we're at on that.
So I don't know if I missed this, but are you anticipating there being a traffic light at the corner?
Well, we don't control that. That's UDOT. And as far as we understand, the traffic lights that are possible are at 2 Hay Golden Eagle and then the one at Hideout. So our entrance and exit is not planning for a traffic light. But one thing UDOT liked is that you can go through our development and go through Golden Eagle to a traffic light if you want to do that for ingress and egress.
Hey, Ryan and Jenny, hats off for your vision. I just sat back and came a little late, watched it. It's great. It's cool. I love it. Just wondering if you guys have worked with UDOT to anticipate what the increase in the flow of traffic right around that peninsula. I'm going to call it a peninsula because it really just dips and turns. It feels like, and I'm asking this in relation to people going back to Kearns, people going to the airport, this being a highly transient sort of development with the hotel. And what do you think that's going to be like there in the traffic zone right around that bend? And is there any anticipation on the car count, what the increase percentage wise would be in just sheer traffic? And knowing people aren't heading to Camas for anything really, except maybe an event at the DeJoria Center or something, they're not sweeping around and cruising through. They're pulling in and pulling out and whipping back through past Hideout over to Kearns into Park City for the evening. Can you talk at all about the thoughts around that increase in sheer traffic count with this kind of a development?
Yeah, what we can talk to is we have hired a traffic engineer. We've signed the contract. We sent them the full balance for the report. It's going to take them, I think they said 4 weeks probably to do the report. And so they work closely with UDOT. They work closely with us as to the usage and who's going to be staying here and, how
And
many
the hours,
rooms.
like when is the banquet room going to be used? Like they're going very detailed.
Right. So they're going detailed on that. They were on the call with UDOT and they talk, their language, traffic study language, which we don't understand. We're going to do this kind of report and that kind of report. So they're currently working on that. And from that report, we will get those traffic counts and like all those answers that you're looking for. The answer is we don't have those now, but that is something that we'll likely have in the next month.
We do know that the past developer did a report because they hired the same people and the same people met with UDOT. And on the call, the traffic analysis team said this is a significantly reduced traffic usage than that, and UDOT were the same and said, yeah, this is a level 2, level 3. So in their talk, even though it's resort, like you said, they actually said resort versus residential in the number and data is a lower traffic density than what it was. But we don't have those numbers, but we will and would love to share as well.
I don't, Thomas, you might be able to answer this. You know, right now the speed limit here is 65. Does there need to be a certain number of egress ingress for the speed limit to be reduced? Or do you know how that works? Does anyone know how that works in
Typically, if
Utah?
there's additional ingress egress, they may look, UDOT might look to reduce that. I think Tim Dixon is on and he may have a better answer to that question. But to answer your question, typically if there's increased traffic counts and or increased curb cuts, they could begin to look at reduction in speed allowances. Tim, did you have
Well,
any?
I'm just thinking, but if there eventually is a traffic light here, or I'm pointing, sorry. Yeah, here and over there. You know, I can't see going 65 between the lights. I mean,
right, and part of the town's agreement, our corridor agreement with UDOT does note that there could be future signals. You know, that traffic signals, that's probably a ways down the road if we're really honest about it, just given time to build out, et cetera. But those were envisioned at a couple of key intersections. That would certainly slow traffic down.
okay, yeah. I was going to say, is there a process for, you know, maybe Hideout asking UDOT to, and I know I've asked this question before, decreasing the 65 down to 55.
I think that, you know, typically that happens as a result of additional developments and curb cuts, as you noted, ingress, egress, right? My experience with UDOT is that more often than not, it really is the town, a council or a mayor outreach, followed up by support from a community. That can be in the form of petitions, et cetera. Typically, that is how UDOT acts, and more often than not reacts, because they have so many roads that they're addressing. But Tim, I don't know if you have any additional information with regard to that, but typically that would be town initiated and hopefully publicly supported.
Yeah, we've been trying to communicate with Region 3 UDOT officials, and you know, a lot of factors go into lights discussion, speed discussion, access, egress, and ingress. So, you know, I just, we need to have a sit down, and we need to talk about it. I've been talking with Region 3 officials, and again, these developers love the idea that you're bringing to us, but you know, you need to communicate also with town officials to make sure we're helping each other out, for a lack of a better word. So, but Thomas, you're right with everything you've said in regards to, you know, speed and egress, ingress, et cetera. So, and the lights and the corridor agreement and everything. I mean, there's just a bunch of factors that go into Highway 248.
And we're with you, Glennis. I mean, it's you know, by the White Barn in Park City, that used to be 55 miles an hour forever and ever, and they lowered that to 45. I'm not sure how that all happened, but you know, that's not something that we brought up on the call with UDOT, but I'll make sure that we do it next time. Just
and our next call is May 1st, so Glennis will ask that and get it back to you.
So I know we've got a lot on the agenda tonight. I know that we've had a fair amount of discussion. I didn't know if there's anything, I'm just kind of working through my report. I didn't know if there's anything in particular the Planning Commission wanted to discuss. You've actually run through a number of my issues, but just for a quick clarification, I might run down them and just kind of summarize where we are today. And so with the newly proposed density, so everybody's aware, if they kept the 25 on the west side and kept the noted 230 on the east side, the total units per acre would equate to about 2.28 units per acre. Just by way of comparison, Deer Springs is at about 2.57 and Lakeview is at about 3.08. So this would be less than that. Certainly it would be a little more dense if we look at just the 230 units on the east side. That would be at around, where is it here? That would be at around 3.29 units per acre. But that is, again, putting all the density on one side and preserving the east side. I know you had some discussions with regard to your generally favorable to leaving the mountain zoning on the west side, the house side, maybe looking at potential number restriction or kind of clustering that maybe down the road. That was brought up at the last time. That would be an MDA discussion at time of rezoning, but you guys have walked through that. As I noted, they have removed some a significant amount of density from about 318 down to the 230, 255 if you include the east side. Connectivity with parks, you guys walked through that. They did note some trails on the west side that again is the single house side. Those would be easements to allow accessibility. You discussed the overpass, underpass. They recommended a proportional percentage, something again that would be looked at and really honed in on at time of MDA. Sensitive lands you discussed, they illustrated the 30% map. And then they're looking at, with regard to infrastructure, maybe doing a PID, water shares, they're looking to purchase from within JSSD. Yeah, so you guys actually walked through most of my issues. I just wanted to make sure that we covered those so that if you guys had any specific questions that we fully covered that before you guys made any recommendations.
Thank you. So now how do we ask for the yes?
That was the big ask.
Right.
Planning commissioners, I don't know if you have any questions of them or me. I know
Jenny, this is Tony. The only issue I have is I would just like to see a little bit. I know you say you're not going to develop it,
Yeah.
but we still would have to approve it. I would just like to see a little less density on the west side instead of 25, somewhere between 15 and 20.
Yeah, and we are happy to do that conversation. We would love to make that conversation after we close on this lot. And we know you have to approve whatever that is. And it's just for our resources and time and focus that we're really not interested in developing it. So, but yes, we would love the same thing as you and love to have that conversation if it cannot be tied to the 72 so we can move as quickly as possible and not have to spend resources on something we don't even want to develop right now. That would be amazing. But happy to hear your thoughts on the answer as well.
No, that's fine. Thank you. Any of the other commissioners have any more questions? I'll take the silence as a no. So Polly, correct me if I'm wrong. We cannot vote on anything in regard to this tonight because this would have to be put on for public discussion, correct?
Correct. My understanding is that this is on for a concept plan tonight. So it's just, maybe Thomas has the language of what that application is, but it's just giving feedback. I'll let Thomas speak.
Yeah, really, this is giving feedback, but I would say that, you don't have to, this is not a formal vote. A concept plan is not a plan that goes to the council or anything like that. It really gives the applicant's direction to move to the next step. Again, in this case, that would be rezoning application if given a positive head nod. And then after that, they would go to subdivision review. And so I guess I would say maybe, Tony, if you could maybe just ask the commissioners generally a heads up, and or if there are any specific conditions that we haven't discussed, maybe that would give the applicants the comfort to move on. So it's not a formal vote, but
And
it's just go to what concept plan as we can do.
do you think we should take an informal vote in regard to this concept from the commission?
Sure.
No.
I think
Or can we even do that, Polly?
just
I would just talk to each one. I mean, I guess you can get an informal head nod that you're generally supportive of this concept plan. Obviously, it's very high level. Or if you just want to ask each person, you know, for their feedback or, you know.
Yep.
What,
Okay.
just thumbs up, thumbs down each person, maybe. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, and what Ryan and I need is a, yes, we like this concept, guys, keep digging in, start delving into how to make it even better, lock in these partners. Then, so once, we just need a yes, that this concept vision is good. Then we go to rezoning, and that's when it's public and you'll get to vote, but we can't go to rezoning until the very high level concept. And by concept, we mean the essence we've talked about, the density, everything you've heard from us, with conditions that I've heard tonight on that we are going to be supporting something with the underpass, overpass, hopefully in ratio, and we'll have that conversation with the city. The condition of trails through the other property that can connect. Yeah, so those conversations happen after this in that next phase. And so we just need a, yes, this concept is good to go to the next phase from us.
Right.
However that happens.
Right.
That's what we need.
I will ask that, then I'll ask the commission in total, any of the members have any misgivings or questions in regard to this concept that they would like to put forward now? Or would they like, if not, I'll take that to mean that they have no problem with this concept going forward, rather than doing a roll call.
I don't, I'll speak and other people can nod or also input. I don't have a problem at all with this concept. I think it's great. My only reservation is it might be nice to kind of tie the other side in, only because I like the way it looks now, and I really don't want to see 24 other homes on there. That's my only, you know, feeling. Otherwise, I think it's great.
Thank you, Glynis. Rachel, you have any questions or any misgivings?
Overall, I like it. I'm looking at the map and I'm wondering a little bit about the terrain that's close to the parking lot where the commercial is and where the hotel is. I'm wondering just sort of about the view and the desirability of the lots that are really close to it.
Do you have any issues with this concept going forward?
I'm just, is the terrain such that those houses will still have any kind of view? That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, those are actually probably some of the best views in the whole subdivision on that hillside facing southwest. So those right there, we'll see Timpanogos, Jordanelle, and Deer Valley. And the terrain is such, it's really hard to see on this, but
Yeah.
those townhomes are probably, I'm going to guess, at least 30 feet above that hotel.
Oh, okay. All right. No, I think overall that the whole concept is really good, and I'm excited to see how it comes together. I agree as far as keeping the west side undeveloped would definitely make it more desirable. So.
Thank you. Jonathan?
I like the concept overall. They've addressed all of my concerns, except, we would need JSSD and the state, of course, to, to bless the water issues. And I understand that they're not there at this point. So I'm comfortable with everything I've heard, subject to, all the representations were made today.
Thank you. Joel?
I like the concept in general as well. Just a couple little tweaks. Number one, when I heard parking cars on grass, I had a little concern for fire safety for that. The only other thing, small tweak, well, maybe not a small tweak, is I think it's I'm not a big fan of the 5 casitas off by themselves being a part of the resort. I know that would be the best view, but it just seems a little odd. You're going to be running your resort through a residential area for just 5 casitas. Otherwise, I like your concept, really do.
Understood. Thank you.
Great feedback.
And I have no issues with it other than what I stated before, Jenny, in regard to the density on the west side. So basically, your informal vote is that the commission is happy with the concept, I guess.
Thank you,
That's
guys.
the best way to put it.
Thank you for your feedback and the input and everything.
We're really excited about bringing these puzzle pieces together with you all. And now we move to the next step, thanks to you.
Yep.
So
Thank you.
we'll see
We
you guys
appreciate
soon.
your dealing with all the issues that we raised. Thank you.
Yes, and please keep bringing them up. We're smarter together. So
Thank you, guys.
do we leave now?
We should stop
Oh,
sharing.
I stopped sharing. You don't want to see my emails to my babysitter. No. Okay, did that work?
Next thing on the agenda is the presentation of the town center concept plan.
Actually, Tony, I think that it might be better. I think that Nate Brockbank is in the room. We should probably go over the maybe the short-term rental ordinance and the cottages, if you are okay with that.
Well, why don't we do the cottages first? Because I think that'll be much easier.
Let's do the cottages. Okay.
Actually, I think you should do the zone first because I think it has direct impact. I think that if it's, I don't want to speak for Mr. Brockbank, but my sense is that if it isn't rezoned and it won't be considered to be rezoned, he may have a different concept for the cottages. Am I speaking out of line, Thomas?
No, you're actually right. These are kind of one and the same. One is initiating the other at the end of the day. And so I think you're right. If we'll work with Nate on both of these. And so, yeah, but why don't we go ahead and do the ordinance first? That might make it a little bit easier.
Okay, so then we'll do the discuss and possibly make a recommendation to the Hideout Town Council regarding adopting chapter 12.25 for short-term rental overlay zone.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see.
Do you want to go through this, Thomas, or you want to just let Nate start and go run with it?
No, I will go through this actually. Bear with me. I'm
Okay.
pulling up mine. Okay, so this is actually, I think that yeah, this is for the nightly rental concept. We've had this discussion a little bit with you all, and we had it with the town council as well. The discussion has always been that right now the new ordinance does not allow for any nightly rentals in the community. And so this would be a change to that. There was a discussion to maybe think about creating a specific zoning district for nightly rentals, but that was that got a little bit complex in terms of nightly rentals have different densities, et cetera. So the idea was decided that we could look at it as an overlay district. And so the project that initiated this was Nate's concept for phase 8 of the Deer Springs subdivision, which was approved for 30 townhouse units as part of the original MDA that was approved, I think it was back in 2019. And so Nate approached the town with a concept to do some cottages there, which was a different housing product, and something that was desired by the community. And he brought the idea to the town and noted that he could do it. It would be a product that he owns, and that it would be, and he proposed that it be nightly rental to make it actually work. And so that was discussed with you all. I think it was back in October, and then it was discussed with the town council in January. And so generally it got a favorable head nod. And so what you see in front of you is a general town ordinance. If you actually scroll down to the next page, if it is this Alicia in charge, you'll see that right now, just for clarification, we only allow nightly rentals in 2 areas, and that's because they both occurred prior to the new ordinance. One is in Claim, that was part of their HOA CCNRs, and then the other is in Deer Springs Phase 1 that included a plat note that allowed for nightly rentals. So right now, those are the only 2 areas in town that do allow for nightly rentals. The master HOA does not allow for any nightly rentals. Of course, Claim and Deer Springs are outside the master HOA. If you scroll down just a little bit further, you can see what the current town ordinance is relative to short-term rentals. These were implemented, these zoning line items, text amendments were implemented on September 8th of 2022, and they were basically as a stopgap to address concerns that may arise with regard to those nightly rentals in Claim and or in Deer Springs Phase 1. If you scroll down a little bit further, you can see, again, this is kind of the area that is being discussed. So at both your meeting and the town council meeting, the issue was folks did not want to see nightly rentals in existing neighborhoods. And so this proposal being on the other side, the west side of Jordanelle Parkway, was discussed as a new development, a new neighborhood. It doesn't have any surrounding neighborhoods or subdivisions, any residential development at all. So it was discussed that it could be a likely kind of trial nightly rental district or short-term rental district. And so again, its separation is probably the driving factor for it being considered as such. Again, you could see it in the map there. If you scroll down just a little further, you can go beyond that map. As we think about the ordinance, this map outlines your current zoning map. Again, nightly rentals are not allowed anywhere within the kind of the beige area. That would be the master HOA. And again, outside of Claim and Deer Springs Phase 1, it's not allowed outside of any or out within any zoning district. You could scroll up a little bit further. This issue was discussed in the June 2022 survey, and at the time it was simply asked generally, should we allow nightly rentals in private homes? About 2/3 recommended against it. Some thought there was it depends, and about 1/3 thought they generally supported nightly rentals. So generally, the sentiment in the community is against it. It's worth noting that as part of that survey, there were a number of comments. And so if you scroll up just a little bit, I think we had, what do we have? 331 participants. There were a number of comments, and some noted similar to what the Planning Commission and the Town Council noted, and that is that if it were maybe in the right spot, separated, not impacting, negatively impacting an existing neighborhood, there might be some considerations. Those were just comments. That's anecdotal. But there was generally a lack of support for it in neighborhoods. If you scroll up, based on the discussion with the Planning Commission and the Town Council, there were some considerations for the benefits of nightly rentals, benefits that would be fiscal to the community. The Planning Commission doesn't make and can't make recommendations based on economics. The Town Council can certainly look at economics. The town administration can, but we tend to look, the planning commission is required to look at it from basically a land use perspective, from a use perspective, from a character perspective. But nightly rentals certainly do contribute to the community's revenue. Generally, I think that based on Nate's study, that it could be an additional 70,000 annually to the community's budget. Again, it's more of a council discussion to look at the dollars. If you look at the general plan statement there, it discusses, again, preserving outstanding views, cultivating the neighborhood atmosphere, building a connected community. Generally, the council and at their January meeting felt that if the nightly rentals were on a trial basis, again, separated, that it would not be impactful. It could actually be a benefit to the community, build a different kind of resort community, if you will, and ensure some of the town's economic goals. You can scroll up. So,
Can I stop and ask a question?
Sure.
This area is not part of the master HOA, is it?
It is not part of the master HOA.
Okay.
It's outside.
How does that relate to our discussion?
So because it's not part of the master HOA, it is something that you can apply an overlay zone for to allow them. If it were in the master HOA, if you applied that overlay zone, it would be all for naught, because the HOA can establish more restrictive covenants, more restrictive standards. So you could allow it as a town, but the HOA does not allow it and would not allow it. So it wouldn't have any power there.
Okay.
So this is a proposed ordinance or discussion. As you can see, what we heard from the community and the commission and the council was that, again, consider it, maybe do a trial district, but they also wanted to ensure that standards were incorporated, criteria, conditions. So as you can see here, it is an outline for what could be an ordinance. This is what's for discussion tonight. So before we go through this, though, I think this may be an opportunity to just kind of talk about the area before we actually talk about the ordinance. Is the Planning Commission generally supportive of the area? In this case, it would be the Phase 8 of Deer Springs that is on the west side of Jordanelle. Does that generally make sense to folks here?
Thomas, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's somewhat separate and apart from the rest of the community, correct?
It is, because it is on the other side of Jordanelle Parkway, an area that Hideout has not seen any construction on within the town boundary of Hideout. So you can see right there on that map.
Yeah.
This is on the edge.
Okay. No, for that reason, I have no problem personally with that concept.
How about anybody else? Any major concerns with this particular location?
No. I
No,
agree.
not for me in terms of location. Obviously, we need to know that there's water. And of course, there'll be no above ground sewage structures, of course.
Correct. That is correct. Well, so I think that we could walk through, maybe just before I turn it over to Nate. Again, well, you know what, Nate, why don't you go ahead and speak a little bit, because we initially started this discussion relative to Phase 8. And since that time, over the course of the past month, I know that you've had some communications with Town Hall relative to maybe you would also like to see nightly rentals in Phase 2A and 2B of Deer Springs. Those subdivisions have already been approved.
Thomas, do you have that map I sent you?
A
chance?
I don't have it up, but if you continue speaking, I can find
While you're
that.
looking for that, just appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to what we had to say. So I met with the mayor, over a year ago, and we talked about doing nightly rentals, and that's when we came before the council. It's probably been 2 years. and planning commission in phase one, and those were approved. We did a master agreement amendment. And then he said he's okay with, well, he wants to talk about nightly rentals if it's not around the park. And so what we've thought about doing is this phase 8, and then 2A, and some in phase 4. They're all townhomes. We would change the phase 8, which is across the Jordan Hill Parkway, the one we are talking about, to cottages rather than townhomes, which is a different look. We have a lot of townhomes now. And see, these would be cottages. I don't have a drawing of them, but they're, 950 to 1,500 square feet. We would own every one of them. My team, which is Larry Miller's family and the Holmes Group, we would own them all and manage them all and rent them. And then in 2A and 2B, or 2A and 4, they would be, those phases, they would be townhomes. And we would just sell those on the open market, hoping to get nightly rentals. And for this, I proposed that we would give our sales, so the 3 taxes, we give our sales tax, resort tax, and our transit room tax portion of MIDA to the town. MIDA would have to approve this, but we did a study, and if you guys were to approve those units, so they're in phase 2A, there's 48 units. 2B, there's 10 units. Phase 4, there's 27 units, and phase 8, there would be 31 to 35 cottages. Don't know how many will get approved. Maybe we'll get 33 or so, 32 if it's with, there's a couple of the lots that are in the over 30%. Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So we did a study, and if we were to be at 70% in phase 2, 4, and 8, it would generate for the town an extra $14,282,591, plus the transit orient tax that would be almost another $7 million. So it would generate for the town almost $21 million to approve those nightly rentals if we can keep them occupied at 70%. And I don't think 70%'s that hard. And that's the MIDA agreement. So that's over the 25-year agreement with MIDA.
And Nate, just so I'm clear, that included phase 1, 2A, 2B.
No, it doesn't include 1. It includes what we're asking for now: 48, or 2A, which is 48 units, 2B, which is 10 units. There's actually more units in phase 2B, but I'm only asking for 10 because I don't want to go down, break that line to the park, get too close to the park. So 48 units in 2A, 2B, there's 10 units. Phase 4, there's 27 units. And then phase 8, right now we're proposing 35 units. And like I said, that would generate, just in the sales tax and resort tax for the town, $14,282,000. And then in the transit room tax, it would generate another, it matters what our occupancy, but almost another $7 million. So it would generate $21 million over 25 years for the town. And this was a study that Rob Sant did, and we presented this study to the economic, I think they call them the economic committee.
Yeah.
Jan was on that call, and the whole committee, and Thomas was on there, and so they actually have that study. And I don't know if you wanted to pull it up or spend the time today. So because I added these 3 phases and it didn't get put in, I don't know why it didn't get put in the agenda. I'm not asking for a vote for mine. I just wanted to see if you guys want to talk about, if I was to be willing to give the MIDA, my portion of the MIDA sales tax, resort tax, and transit room tax to the town. Like I say, for the, not necessarily for the approval, but that's, giving you guys all those taxes. My portion of those taxes.
So and Nate, maybe it'll be easier for the planning commission to kind of think about it as if you guys are looking at this plan, keep in mind, you guys have approved phase 1, that's under construction. 2B and 2A are also approved right now. And so this would be kind of looking backwards. And I think, Nate, you're kind of asking for an overlay in this area. And
Yeah.
so
I've
really-
lost the screen. I don't know if I did something or I can't see what we're talking about, but 2A comes right off of Jordanelle Parkway. And then 2B, I'm looking for the top portion of that. And then 4.
right.
You know,
So
I would,
you see this image just out of curiosity?
I'm just a little bit concerned because we didn't agendize this area at all as part of this discussion. It was really, I mean, I guess there's the concept of a new zone, which is a nightly rental zone that your, so, I guess you could talk about generally where would that zone fit, but I don't know. This just makes me a little nervous where we haven't noticed this area at all for this newly proposed zone.
Okay, so this is what we decided. I called to take myself off the agenda because these items weren't put on the 2A and Thomas said, why don't you just bring it and just talk about it? So I'm not asking for a vote.
Sorry.
No problem. I'm just not asking for a vote. I just want to get your guys' take and see what your thoughts were. You guys should probably review the study, but the numbers I'm talking about were done by a professional, Rob Sant. I forget his company's name, but that's who you guys have used Rob Sant before in the past. And
just to clarify those numbers that you gave, is that how much those nightly rentals would produce for the town or produce altogether and then MITA gets a cut of that?
No, that's what it would produce for the town. That's the town's portion and my portion. Obviously, if you don't approve nightly rentals, the town doesn't get their portion. So the town and I get the same portion. I think we each 30%. So for you to approve, if you were to approve nightly rentals over here, you'd get the town's portion and then you would get my portion. And those numbers I gave you are my portion and the town's portion together.
Okay, sorry. So sorry for kind of the conflicting advice from me and Thomas, but.
Oh, no, not a problem at all.
All
No.
I wanted to do was make sure that we heard from Nate because actually there's a request not just for phase 8, what you're seeing here. It's actually for more. Tonight's discussion is only for phase 8 though. And I think that Nate is asking with regard to his subdivision that it either be pulled or we just look at it conceptually, which is probably the best thing. But relative to this nightly rental ordinance, I just wanted you guys to know that there's also already a request for an expansion of this particular area. So it's something to keep in mind. It would be a more significant impact to the Deer Springs neighborhood. So that was the only thing that I wanted to make.
For just phase 8, I was never willing, and I told the mayor and everyone that I've talked to, I wasn't willing to give my portion of MITA just for phase 8. But if you guys were to approve 2A and 4, then I would give my portion of MITA, which is roughly $10 million over 25 years.
I just want to point out one thing to my fellow planning commissioners is that we're not really looking at this through the lens of economics. We're looking at this through the lens of, does this work for our community? Does it work for this part of the community? Does it work for the community as a whole? Is it a good planning thing to do or not?
Yeah, and on that point, I was just giving the numbers because I did the study. We feel like we're kind of away from the community. We basically are our own little community. We'll have our own park, the streams, the walking trails, the bike paths. And it's a resort. We're up on Jordanelle. We're the closest community to getting to Deer Valley and those other resort, communities in the area. And so, that's kind of what we were thinking.
Okay, how do you think that will impact those other phases?
Well, I don't think it's going to, I mean, who knows? I don't think it's going to impact them very much because we'll let them know. When we do phase 3, everyone's going to know that we have townhomes or the rentals in phase 2A and nightly rentals. It doesn't mean that it's just offered. It doesn't mean that we don't raise our prices. We don't sell them for more. It's just offered in 2A, and whatever you guys were to approve. So we'd be transparent with everyone, so they would know going in what's there.
Nate, are you including all the units in 2A?
All the units in 2A and 10 of the units in 2B.
And you would not own those yourself? They'd be for sale?
Those, yeah, the only ones I've got that for sure we're going to own is phase 8.
Okay.
Do you have a map with a little bit higher resolution so that we could kind of get a feel for the proportion and location?
I didn't see the map. Thomas, did you have a map up?
Yeah.
Yeah, let me get you that. The one I have is just the subdivision.
Did the map I had up, did that kind of give you some clarity?
I was hoping for something with a little more resolution, if possible.
Well, maybe that is something that we can try to get you at maybe the next meeting if you want to have that discussion. But I just wanted you guys to understand that there's actually a request for more than just a particular area in terms of the nightly rental overlay. That doesn't necessarily mean that you are supportive or that we have done the analysis to be supportive. I just wanted you to be aware of that. But I think maybe right now we should walk through the zoning ordinance and see if you guys think that generally it covered what you felt should be in a short-term rental overlay district, if that's helpful. We don't have to make a vote on this, but it would help us understand if we generally got everything included, if this were something that we were to proceed with, whether it's just for this particular site that was noticed for tonight, or if we were to maybe expand it more broadly.
Yeah, I'm comfortable talking about just as, the phase 8 for tonight, but for future discussions of the other areas, I would really appreciate a map with some more resolution so I could, I sit in my office here and I'm looking up at that area and I'm trying to visualize it, and a map would be very helpful for me.
We can definitely do that. Again, phase 8 came in, and then about 10 days ago, after we had already noticed, Nate indicated a desire to consider an expansion of that area. And so we've not noticed for that. It's really only for phase 8 at this point.
Yeah.
So what you see in front of you is a draft ordinance. And so maybe we could spend a few minutes just taking a look at this. Again, we don't have to do a vote on this. Actually, Nate has asked that his subdivision, that would be the next item on the agenda, to be pulled unless we want to look at it conceptually, just to give direction. This is not essential that this ordinance get voted on tonight. This was being done tonight just to ensure that if it were approved, that Nate would come forward with the subdivision that included cottages for phase 8. If the short-term rental overlay didn't get approved for phase 8, it would probably, his intent would be to just keep it as what it is already approved for, the 30 townhomes. So that's the only reason this is ahead of his. It got a little bit complicated for that reason. But basically for this ordinance, short-term rentals are defined as anything less than 30 days. And then what you see below it is really some criteria. Alicia, if you could scroll up, what you see below it is a recommendation for some criteria. And here's what you see is that certainly all the sections of 4.07, which is our short-term rental ordinance that went into effect in September of 2022, incorporate property management, et cetera. No short-term rental overlay zone would be located within an existing neighborhood surrounded by residential development or adjacent to existing residential uses. Again, that's per planning commission and town council. Limited to houses or condos of less than 2,000 gross square feet. so that it keeps the nightly rental market a little bit smaller rather than all large houses also going toward the nightly rentals. Nightly rentals for a minimum of 1 week, so there's not as much traffic, turnover, trash collection, disruption. A maximum number of persons at 6, a maximum number of parking limited to 2 automobiles per the property. Parking would have to be provided on the property. Rental contracts that include a copy of the town's trash, parking, and noise ordinances, kind of a good neighbor brochure, something you sometimes see in different Airbnbs, but kind of a document that summarizes what's expected. There would be an agreement that the town's building inspector would conduct an annual walkthrough. There's kind of a 3 strikes, you're out, if you will, 3 substantiated complaints either to police, fire, or any EMS service would nullify a nightly rental for a year. Alicia, you can scroll up. And I think that was the last one. And so maybe we could discuss those, and then there's some potential other subsequent criteria that could be incorporated or discussed. But the criteria that I walked through, generally the direction that the Planning Commission feels we should go, anything too restrictive, not restrictive enough, anything missing?
I would like to see fine provisions for violations in an escalating fashion, such that first fine gets X, the second fine is 2 or 3X, and so on and so forth. If you provide a disincentive to violation, I think you're more likely to get compliance.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm allowed to talk here. I'm a little bit concerned about the 7 days. I mean, that's a long vacation for a family. Usually it's a 4 or 5 day vacation. A minimum 7 days might be really hard to comply with, or to even to make rentals. I thought I heard you say that when I was listening, but
yeah, that was discussed. You're right, Nate. That's something that we could look at if that was too long of a duration. We're seeing some communities implement, to your point, 4, 5, 6, 7 day minimums just to help cut down on the traffic, the turnover.
I know if you have kids in school, I mean, a long weekend's a 4-day weekend. I think a 7 day would really hurt the rental market.
We require that they put down a deposit, because that kind of encourages more responsible people.
Typically that would be handled privately. So in this case, if an individual owned the 30-ish cottage units, they would establish deposit agreements, down payment agreements at time of reservation. That would all be done privately.
The nightly rentals shall be limited to houses, condos of less than 2,000 square feet. What isn't one in the nightly rentals right now? And
One is,
are any?
Yeah, one is in, and one has units that are greater than 2,000 square feet. One is already phase 1 is already grandfathered in, so they wouldn't we wouldn't apply the short-term rental overlay onto one. This would be in addition to that. They already have their approval.
Got it.
Yeah.
I thought they were more than 2,000 square feet.
They definitely are. Yeah, there's some single families in there and some townhouses that are greater than that.
I personally don't have a problem with shortening the 7-day rental. I think the argument that it's hard to get a family in there sometimes for a long period of time. So I would be supportive of shortening it to something a little less, certainly not 1 night, but maybe 3 or 4. I could be supportive of.
We can look at that, sure. I agree with that, actually. I think 7 can be a bit restrictive, actually.
And I don't mean to change the thing, but you guys, if you guys, they could vote on this because they're not designating properties yet, right? If they like this, they could actually vote on this tonight. They're not saying phase 8 in this agreement right here.
Well,
that-
actually, this one does include not only the ordinance, but an overlay recommendation for phase 8.
Okay, okay,
So it includes both. So it's actually the ordinance and the map.
okay.
So maybe it may be worth us continuing this to the next
Okay.
meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like the idea of putting fines in there. You know, and the more you get, or if you get 2 fines, it's, you know, I like that. I don't know where do those fines go? Do they go to the town?
They would go to town for services, yeah, for the
Okay.
EMS services that would likely have responded to the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would also like to see if you're going to do a fine provision, you know, that for fines that either for which they don't request a hearing and don't pay within a certain period of time, that the outstanding balance, you know, accrues interest at say 1.5% a month or something like that, to provide some impetus or incentive to pay promptly.
Okay. Anything else? So again, I think that what we'll do in light of the fact that Nate has basically pulled phase 8, the cottages, from a formal subdivision review. I think we can continue this until the next meeting. Again, we'll also we'll carry on with some discussions with Nate, and if there's a recommendation or an application by him for additional phases. It's just something that I wanted you guys to be aware of early on. There will be some challenges with phase 2A and B if we were to start to look that way, just given that those wouldn't meet some of the criteria, i.e. existing residential neighborhoods. It's something that would have to be tweaked if the planning commission felt that an expansion was warranted, but that is not on the table tonight. It is just phase 8. And so I think that I've got some input from you all. We'll take that input and make some of the recommended updates and then bring it back to you.
I would also like to see some public comment be part of the agenda as well.
This is open for public comment, Jonathan, when we're done.
It is, yeah.
Oh, terrific. Okay.
I have a quick question on the short-term rental, whether it's 7 days or 7 nights, 4 nights, 3 nights. Who actually monitors that? So the town or somebody knows that they aren't renting for less than 7 nights or 4 nights.
So typically that would probably be the property management requirement that we have in the September 2022 requirements for short-term rental. The town would coordinate and make sure that that property management company was ensuring that it was for this duration. But quite frankly, you're right, that can be a very hard thing to monitor. We know that can be sometimes that has been sidestepped in the past in different communities and could be sidestepped, but it would be something that we would have to pay pretty close attention to and work with the Property Management Association.
So then we're not going to vote on either number 1 or 2 tonight, Thomas. We're going to put them over.
I think we'll continue those. Yeah.
Okay. We still need to open those up for public discussion.
Correct.
Because
Yeah,
that's what is
for
on the
the
calendar.
short-term overlay map and the short-term ordinance. That's correct.
Do any other commissioners have any other questions for Nate or Thomas? Okay, that being said, we will open it up for a public comment. If anybody who is listening would like to make a comment in regard to this, I believe if you're on the telephone, it's *9. A regular PC is alternate and Y. And if you're on a Mac, it's option Y. Uh,
Jim Gruber had his hand up.
yes, Mr. Gruber.
Yes, you know, I'm concerned about, I live in Deer Waters, which is far away from this. But everyone that I've talked to, and I moved here in October, everyone I've talked to, including all the new people that have moved in with me, we all do not want short-term rentals. So, I mean, actually, I don't know what his name is that showed that graph before that 60% were against it. I think it's probably higher, do not want it there. And one of the reasons is the traffic. We're going to have more traffic cutting through us and, you know, getting off of 248 or going down the Jordanelle, because you can get there through the off the Shoreline Drive. You should be able to drive through the Deer Springs to get there too. And right now on Shoreline Drive, we have any construction workers go down Shoreline Drive. They drive, it's a 20-mile-an-hour speed zone, and everybody speeds through there. And, you know, we're going to have a lot more traffic and density coming in for short-term parkers. How are you going to handle it?
Well,
Is that a question for me?
Mr. Gruber, let me ask you a question. What makes you think there will be any more traffic if there were rental properties or if people were living there full time?
Well, when you have full-time people living there, they're a lot more careful about how they drive. When you have people are there for a couple days, they don't really care.
All
as
due
much
respect,
about the
that sounds like
property.
a real generalization.
Yeah, right.
Well, there are two, you don't have to get to number 8 by going Shoreline. You would get there from the Jordanelle Parkway.
Number 2A is the same. You can get there from, you know, it's an extension of Shoreline. We couldn't call it Shoreline,
Right.
what the county said, but 2A, you're going to come up on Jordanelle Parkway because you're right off Jordanelle Parkway. I don't see any reason why anyone in Deer Springs would drive all the way through the town at 10 miles an hour, 15 miles an hour, even to get their mail, if they can, to do anything, to go to the city building, they would jump on the freeway right there. And if they're going to go into Park City, they're going to jump on the freeway or go to Jordanelle Parkway. I don't see why anyone from Deer Springs is using that Shoreline Road going all the way through town. So I don't think, I mean, we can look at
So
it.
what other commercial property is going to be on there? You have a pool, clubhouse. Now, what's all that about?
So that's for the cottages in phase 8. And then we put a piece of commercial in, which the town asked us, I think we've been a planning commission 3 times and town council once. And so we put a piece of commercial up there because we would be the only piece of commercial on Jordanelle Parkway that I'm aware of, unless someone's changed their plans, which I don't think they have. And so being the only, commercial property there, it would generate some tax revenue for the town. And, I think over time, I think it's a little too early right now because there's not enough rooftops, but Jordanelle Parkway, that would be a good piece of commercial that the town would generate, we could generate, sales tax for the town, et cetera.
Mr. Gruber, do you have any other questions?
No, I just have a feeling that the property could be used better if it's going to be used commercially. I think that there's better uses than short-term rentals. I think we're starving for restaurants up here. We're starving for places that are nearby. The closest restaurant near us is like Black Rock Hotel. And I mean, you're putting in short-term rentals where it's going to increase the density and not do anything to solve the problems.
Well, I would point out that we actually, on the next item on the agenda is with regard to a discussion for a conceptual town center not too far from here. So I recommend staying on. You may enjoy that one.
Okay.
And to be honest, I mean, this is not a commercial piece of property. We put one little piece of commercial. It's about, I think it's a 4,000 square foot building on the corner. It's not like you would want to drive in and have a bunch of restaurants on this piece of property.
Well, when you have short-term rentals, to me, that's like commercial because it's like a hotel or a motel. So you're making money off of it. It's not someplace you live. So that's not residential. So that to me is commercial. And I just think if you're going to do commercial, we should do commercial that includes things that we need, not short-term rentals.
Well, maybe just make sure you understand, and maybe you could pull up this. We have a corner that is strictly going to be commercial. It's for a restaurant, it's for a coffee shop, whatever. It's not going to be nightly rentals.
Is that off 248 in Shoreline?
No, it's off of Jordanelle Parkway. And it would be the next item. Is there, the next item?
Yeah, I'll just wait and listen to that.
Do you have my plat for the next item? That's where we could show it.
I can wait.
Actually, you go down to the next page right below that one, and it's a little bit.
There we go.
There you go.
I think we might have a color one in there also, but I go back to that other one. So,
kind of vision, but if you go back to this one,
that one. There on the corner, we have a commercial pad. It's not going to be rented for nightly rentals. It's actually a commercial pad for a coffee shop, for a restaurant. I believe with up and down 2-story, it's about 4,000 plus square feet. But that's strictly set aside for a commercial building. Yes, right there.
And that's the Jordanelle Parkway, just to be clear. The rest of these are the cottage units back here. This is the proposed clubhouse. But this is commercial proposed.
I take it the clubhouse and the pool, those will be restricted to people that are rented, not open to the public?
Yeah, that'd just be for the cottages. So you see where it says power corridor? That's where you get into phase 2A right there.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully that answered your question, Jim.
Yes, it does. And I think the sales tax and the taxes will help anyway, so.
Yeah.
But I just don't want to see us, I mean, sometimes they start small, like you've already proved my point when you got into this meeting and you already expanded what your initial overlay was. So what's to stop you from building it closer? Well, we already got this set up, so why don't we go closer and closer to the other housing units,
Well, let me just explain how this all went down. So I approached over 2 years ago, I talked to the mayor about doing some cottages on phase 8. And he said, well, how about if you throw in some commercial? And so we put the commercial pad in there in phase 8. And he thought that would be a better selling point to the town council and the planning commission. And then I talked to him over 2 months ago, And he, maybe 3 months ago, about adding some phase 2A, some of 2B and 4, but he wanted me to get a study. And so I never mentioned anything to Jan or Thomas until we had the study. And then once I got the study done, we had a meeting with the Economic Committee, and we went over these numbers. And we're having another meeting with them, I didn't want to say anything until we had the numbers. If it wasn't worth it for the town to do this, what the numbers came in at, then I wouldn't even put it on here. But I wanted you guys to know these are the numbers. I'm willing to give you guys all my tax, sales tax, all the taxes I get from, basically sales tax, the transient room tax, and the resort tax, if you were to add to this. If you don't, then I'll see if I could get the phase 8 approved with the cottage, with the cottages and the commercial piece. And if the town doesn't want to do it, then we would just stick with the 30 townhomes. Which I feel like I have enough townhomes. I would rather see cottages than townhomes, to be honest. But so that's how this all went down. It's not like we just threw this on 10 days ago. I ordered a study about 3 months ago, and we had a meeting a couple weeks ago, and that's how all this came on. And so I think it was already noticed. So it's not like I just tried to add it. It's something I talked to the mayor about several months ago, and then the study, and so that's why I wanted to pull myself off the agenda, but we thought we would just talk about it and see, what you guys thought. That's all. And to be honest, I'm only asking for these. I can't, if I went to add more, you guys could say no. I mean, the planning commission and town council have to approve it. So that's how you monitor it. That help you at all, Jim?
Oh, yeah, it helps a lot.
Okay.
I understand what you're saying completely.
And if you want,
you're a businessman. You're doing what you should do.
Yeah. Well, and if you want to meet me over there, I really don't think people from Deer Springs are going to be driving through Deer Waters and the town.
I kind of know the area pretty well over there.
Okay.
And I'm just my big worry is about expansion of that. I'd rather see commercial going in that everyone can use, not just exclusivity. And I just think there's only so much land we can use.
Yeah. Well, like I say, I'm not doing this. I'm doing this for several reasons. It really helps sales. Now, phase 8, we're going to keep them all, but it definitely helps to sell in a slower economy. And I'm giving up all my tax incentives to the town. And so it's not like I'm doing it to make more money or anything like that. I'm giving up over, $21 million if things go well over 25 years to the town. And so, well, I guess I don't. I'm not. That's not quite right. That's what the entire town, with the town's portion and my portion. So I'm giving up roughly half of that. So I don't want to. Sorry about that. But it kind of goes hand in hand. If the town doesn't have nightly rentals, then they wouldn't get the sales tax and resort tax anyway. And so by approving nightly rentals, they would get mine and theirs. So. And I think at the next meeting, I'll bring Rob Sant and we can go, well, you guys don't care about the financial part of it, but you guys ought to at least look at the study, and Thomas has it and he has my permission to send it out just so you guys can review it and look at it.
Thanks, Nate.
Okay, thank you.
Jim, does that answer all your questions for now?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else who has a public comment or question? I don't see any other hands up. Thomas, do you? Polly, do you? Just so I don't miss anybody.
No, I don't see anybody, actually. You are good.
Okay, so at this point, then we will close the public discussion on numbers 1 and 2 in the public hearings. And I believe, Polly, correct me if I'm wrong, we'll put these over for a date certain or a date uncertain.
I don't know, do we have a date certain, or else if it's for a date uncertain, we'll just renotice it. It's not a
Okay,
big
so
deal.
then we'll put it over for a date uncertain, so
Yeah,
Nate can
just-
work things out
Yeah.
with the town and with the financials and everything else in regard to this, about putting the other properties on the calendar also.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Nate.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks, Nate.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we'll go back up to the discussion of a concept plan for the potential town center development.
Excuse me 1 second. Tony, do we need to take any action on number 3 to continue that to also to date uncertain? We only mentioned 1 and 2.
I apologize.
That's okay.
That, yes, we'll move items 1, 2, and 3 in the public hearings to a date uncertain. Because they're seeing that they're all tied in together. Thank you. Now up to number 3. Discussion of a concept plan for a potential town center development. Thomas, do you want to take us through your, I don't want to say proposal, but through your report?
Yes, I will, and I will be quick. I know it's getting late. Oh, yes. All right, so there, I had to open up my report. Okay, so this would be for the 10 acres actually that the town owns at the corner of Shoreline and SR 248. So if you remember, we had some discussions with regard to opportunities for this property over the course of the past year or so. In June of 2022, we asked about commercial development and a town center. You can see the results of that survey right now. Generally, people were supportive of land being utilized for commercial development. Again, there's a desire for cafes and coffee shops and restaurants, et cetera. And also, I think that there is a recognition community-wide that it is a benefit to the community's fiscal revenues, to the town budget. And so generally very supportive of commercial development. If you go to the slide or the page below, Alicia, you can see that we asked folks to rank priorities for what they felt was most necessary, what was most needed. You could see there that the second one down, cafes and restaurants, and then maybe the third from the bottom, bodegas, small grocers, were really the 2 top vote getters. And then you can also see kind of park area and trail connectivity or connecting to this area ranked up there. But essentially, folks were very, very supportive of commercial uses and commercial uses that really amenitized the neighborhood and or the community. You scroll down, as we think about using the 10 acres that was donated to the town, the opportunity to look at a town center would require us to rezone that as kind of either commercial or neighborhood commercial. You keep seeing this general plan graphic, but it's really important. There's more than this graphic to the general plan, but we have to meet the general plan. And you could see here that economic goals, building a connected community, inviting neighborhood atmosphere, keep rising to the top. Something in this area, you could scroll down a little, Alicia, something in this area would not impact any of the views around it. It's in a kind of a slope location downward with pretty good views to the lake. Opportunities here could be for a mixed use development with multiple levels that has views out over the lake. If you remember this area, as I'm talking, why don't we go down to the map? Actually, that might help, or the plan, that might help people see this a little bit better. And then I'll circle back up here. If you kind of scroll up a little more, there you go. So if you were to look at this area, the area that you see in the solid red line, kind of this area here, is the primary area that we're discussing tonight. that the town does own this kind of oddly configured triangle above, but there is also some issues with regard to a potential UDOT connection here across to Deer Mountain. That's part of the corridor plan we discussed earlier. If and when that'll happen remains to be seen, but it is an oddly configured piece of the property, and so it's a bit out of the equation. But this portion down here, this area could be an area that develops with small shops. It's got a pretty good slope drop to down here. In this area at the bottom right here is where the public works facility is located, if that helps give you guys context. What this plan would envision is potentially relocating the public works site. It's an we have an opportunity with the 7 acres that we have on State Road 248. It could be a site that not only satisfies a fire station need that we've had discussions, we've heard from the county in the past and had discussions with them over the course of the past couple of months, but maybe it could be a mixed use site over there with our public works facility and a fire station. That would open up this area that has tremendous views toward the Jordanelle Lake. It has some real opportunities to do something creative with the topography here. Where you see, this is Bellevue that goes into Deer Springs, but there's some pretty good slope drop here. The idea would be that maybe we could put some development down here, again, cafes, coffee shops, etc., that would be on the slope. You could actually do 2 and 3 stories. The rooftop of this area could actually be at level up in this area where Shoreline and Bellevue connect. Could almost have rooftop overlooks, gardens, things like that, that actually kind of start to activate this space. Right now, we don't have a lot of energy for commercial development. We have a lot of desire for commercial development, but we don't have a lot of economic energy. We don't have a lot of rooftops in the area. So it would probably be something that we have to phase. But it offers the town an opportunity to really start to make this commercial town center. 10 acres isn't a lot, but it's also not insignificant. And what we would do would be a phased development approach as well. There's some discussions in the report up above. You don't have to go up there, but you know, this could be, you know, an maybe it could be 10, 20, 30, 35,000 square feet. We could implement architectural and design standards. We could ensure a rezone to neighborhood mixed use or commercial. And probably the initial recommendation, subject to the Planning Commission being supportive of this concept plan, would be that it would be something that town council could set the standards for, the guidelines for, the zoning, put all of that into place, and then RFP it and see if there are developers that are interested in leasing it. It could be a long-term lease so that we ensure additional revenues, but we also ensure control and direction for the future, the long-term future of a site like this. And so really, we just wanted to throw this out to the Planning Commission. Again, I know it's late, but wanted to throw it out and see if you guys had any thoughts, concerns. Is this the right direction? Generally supportive? Any landmines that you see that we should be aware of? That's really where we are.
So Thomas, can you overlay, there's a utility easement that runs right along there. Can you overlay that? Because I think it's kind of shallow during parts of this. The northern part I'm thinking is kind of shallow and the southern part is a little deeper. But do you have that, any chance to do that?
I don't have that easement. Are you talking about the utility easement that maybe goes along the driveway into the public works facility? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, there's some power lines that run right there. And, you know, and I'm kind of wondering, you know, how far, you know, what is the distance between the road and the power lines? Because it seems to me it was deeper, the further south you went, the deeper it was. And so that's just the one potential wart in the mix that I can think of.
That might run along there, but what I will do is as we hone in on this, I'll overlay the site plan with all easements, utility easements, etc. We'll bring that back in much more detail. I can do that. But I think if I'm hearing you correctly, and if I'm remembering correctly, the easements, I think that it is on that western side, kind of where I showed that red line, which is really where we have driveway space right now, asphalt, I should say, driveway and parking space. And so it would be away from where we would envision the buildings. The buildings would be envisioned kind of where the public works facility is on that level. And then if you are up on, shoreline up in this area, they could be, at street level on this side, at street level on this side. There's a little bit of an upslope over here if you guys kind of are remembering that site, but this would probably be down at the taller, maybe 2 or 3 stories, and would be down at the public works side. But I'll bring the easements back.
Also, a little further south, if you could scroll up on the map, right at where it doesn't really show it, right where the fork is, the right, if you're going south, the right branch goes into the park, the left branch goes down shoreline. I think that's another opportunity there as well. It seems that all along there could be various options.
So I think you're talking about kind of along this area in there.
Yes.
Yeah, we do have some opportunities there. We're challenged by slopes as you go further down there. The property that we've got actually really narrows down there. We don't have a lot of depth on either side of shoreline, and it does have some maybe challenging slopes, let's just say that. But we will look at the entire site. What we were really showing tonight was kind of this area, kind of the heart that we would start with and maybe build out. It's where we have the most opportunity to create critical mass. It's where we have the most width or depth, I should say, for the lot.
Thank you.
And is that one of the spots that is designated for a traffic light on 248?
It is one of the spots that is noted as a potential traffic light, yeah. Which is also why, Alicia, if you don't mind scrolling up just a little bit, there you go. It's also why you kind of, it's not really clear yet what would happen, but this area here could be a potential new agreement with UDOT. If this were the case, this corner could disappear, and this would be the new, I'm sorry, delete that. This would be the new route, but it's down the road for that, something like that to happen, but it could be, or a light could be located here. It's yet to be determined.
We certainly wouldn't want to develop where UDOT is going to eminent domain.
That's right. That's why that top triangle, that kind of wonky looking triangle, we kind of left that one out of the equation. We don't want to mess with that area. No.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to, kind of reiterate, if you guys have any thoughts, any input, certainly this is something that we're kind of in the early stages of thinking about, but it's something that we would like to consider a rezone for, and then maybe to work with the town council to put out an RFP to see if we can partner with a developer, lease it to a developer, sell it to a developer. Who knows what the right answer is, but something that would be not only financially beneficial to the community, but also provide those amenities that are desired. So any thoughts, input are welcome. You don't have to do it tonight. Again, I know it's late. We've had a number of items on the agenda, but think about it and give us your input.
Are there any other questions from any members of the council? Okay, thank you, Thomas. Agenda item number 4 will be put over to a date uncertain as at the request of the developer. So that issue will not be heard tonight either. And I believe that covers everything that was on the agenda tonight. Thank you, everybody. If somebody would like to make a motion to end the meeting, I will go
Not
ahead.
to belabor it, but I think that Jim Gruber maybe had a question with regard to the town center. It's not necessarily a public open meeting, but
It's
if
not
you-
open for public discussion.
Mr. Gruber, reach out to me or I'll reach out to you. There you go.
I move that we adjourn.
Thank you, Glynis. Does anybody second that?
I will.
Okay, Glynis,
Yes.
Jonathan,
Yes.
Rachel,
Yes.
Joel,
Yes.
Tony's a yes. Thank you all. And I'm sorry it went a little bit longer than we anticipated, but we'll see everybody on May 18th, 14th, I believe.
Good night.
All right, everyone have a good night. And thank you all.
Good night.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
night.